Welcome everybody to the 8th session of the Imris Saga. Um, Excited to see you. This hopefully will be a more professional start to the stream. It wasn't on the stream end, but on the YouTube VOD it will seem so. So last time we left off, the party had met up in Porsan, decided that they were going to go to Tal'Anfagon, and began their journey. And we spent most of the session on that journey, moving from the from Porsan to I don't have a photographic memory of my own map. Yeah, from Forum to Porsan, rather, where while they were staying at a tavern and booking passage, Will had kind of inquired about potential pursuers that might be looking for Alveron, where they discovered it seems that a bounty has been posted. You didn't ask for how much or anything like that. You just knew that people were looking for him for a bounty, and that the dockmaster had been asked about somebody matching his description. Apparently, they were Elcarin from Tal'Anfagon of the Blue Orchids, a local gang. So it seems that the dragnet has been cast pretty far for Alveron. Although you guys are still, there was some debate as to why. It was a little unclear to everybody still. But you eventually made your way across the lake to Sulveran Temple, where we spent some time. Medea went in and paid / pulled in a favor to talk to a demonologist, where you guys kind of asked about the various different kinds of things. You were very circumspect, so you never mentioned the book or anything like that, but you still inquired and were trying to learn information about shadow dragons, but demons in general as well. That was the main thing that happened there. Afterwards, you guys went downriver, kind of just heading almost straight there to Tal'Anfagon. And we basically ended with you guys arriving, getting to Melfindian's tower, where you had a run-in with a very important person who may or may not come back later. And you entered the tower, so that's where we're going to pick up. Melfindian has just said, so he once more, I'll picture he's kind of standing on a railing. You're in a bit of a sort of entryway room, so it's kind of got a staircase on either side with a railing in the back. You can see several doors sort of underneath the staircase and both on top of the railing, including a large set of double doors, which he seems to be standing in front of. You can see he's wearing fairly plain looking clothes. Like not something that you wouldn't see on a merchant or something like that. He does have his he has got a head wrap on, but you can see his hair like kind of trailing out the back. And a very clearly wizened face on his pretty dark purple skin. Hello? What can I do for you?
Color.
Hello, just like that. Melfindian, I don't know if you ever remembered meeting me that one time, but Borlis has gone missing, and we were hoping that we could take refuge here and perhaps entrust you with something. Like looks for a moment and like glances at all of you. He says, we will see. Why don't you all come up and who likes tea, coffee? As he like looks at all of you guys.
Tea.
Tea, please.
Coffee, please.
Follow
If it
me,
decides to try coffee.
follow me up the staircase, and he'll gesture you around as you all kind of start to lead up. He will open these double doors, kind of just throw them open as you guys are greeted to a very kind of very cozy feeling. It's a large space, but there's rugs on the walls everywhere. There's lots of cushions thrown about. He's got a very big, low table that you're very clearly supposed to like kind of sit not on the floor, but on cushions around, as opposed to chairs. On top of which there is a what seems to be the strangest coffee maker that any of you have ever seen. Most of you have only ever just boiled coffee, but this is like elaborate and made of brass and various kinds of things. And also a teapot next to that with just a variety of different kinds of little like biscuit type cookies. I'll gesture for you to come sit. Just so I don't have to roleplay with myself too much.
No, next 45 minutes is just you and...
Because this is a lot of information you guys as a party already know. Calla will spend a few minutes explaining kind of what happened to Torlus, that, you know, a man trailed by demons came and invaded the tower somehow. She escaped with this book, as her master told her fled. Eventually met up with you all in Karad just by happenstance, after being chased there by some cultists. You helped her defeat them, and have kind of been traveling with her ever since. You all probably, this is the point where one of you starts to fill in with the Emerald Dragon, with the Iracondis. And Melfindian all the while is kind of just like listening. Very occasionally he'll ask like a very brief question, but like, you know, kind of just taking it all in. While he's doing that, he begins to prepare you all coffee. Alveron, this is a bit fancy for your taste, what he's just given you. It's got like milk, like foamed milk in it, and various other like spice. It's maybe some cinnamon and different kinds of things on it. But it's in like a large round white cup with a saucer that he hands to you. Uba, after looking at you for just a minute, he hands you a smaller cup full of a much darker liquid, no milk, no foam. Just slides it over. He will pour
coffee mage.
He will pour tea out for the others.
Will wants coffee as well. Tea for nerds. Like,
Will, you're given coffee similar to Alveron's, although I think yours is in a taller glass, less foam, more milk.
So Australian, sure.
Milk's coffee mugs.
Andrew, have you ever been a barista? Are you literally just sitting here like, all right, and for you the pumpkin spice, and for you it's a macchiato, no foam. I'm no fool.
I would like an affogato and nothing else.
But I think Melfindian may have at one point in life.
Fantastic.
800 years ago, he was a barista.
That's true. His first job. And then, you know, kind of winding up, very quickly glossing over the rest of the journey. We was kind of Cal saying, and then we made our way to Tal'Anfagon, and well, here we are. Melfindian kind of just like reaches his hand out and he says, may I see the book? I'll kind of pull it out and hand it to him. Like looks it over, flips through the pages real quick, sets it down on his table and says, right, well, I do not know very much about this at the moment, but you are welcome all to seek shelter here for a time. As you may or may not know, I'm not much of an adventurer these days, if you can't tell by my old bones, as he holds out a hand that very clearly he's exaggerating to be extremely shaky, because you know it's not shaky. He just handed you coffee very cleanly.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise!
No adventurer can make coffee like this. So no, I'm not convinced anyway.
Yeah. I have not seen an elf reach this age before. Never seen an old-looking elf. That's the way to put it.
We are rare in these days. Many perished during the Blight, and my generation is the first to achieve this age in some time. Demurs for a moment. I would guess that you have more questions than just about the book. Charlie, your cam's going crazy right now.
It's my clerical
We're-
halo.
Sulveran's been blessed.
Sulveran's god just jumps right in the scene.
Yeah, more Dane is here now. Now Andrew has to be 3 NPCs.
3 NPCs. All right.
Yeah.
He kind of says, but I gather that you may have more questions than just about the book and the providing a repository for that thing. He'll turn to Alveron at this point. He says, seems that you are a wanted man. I have been there before in my time.
Who was hunting you, sir?
Oh, I've been hunted by many people, things. I was once the public enemy of the state here in Tal'Anfagon. Had to leave for 50 years.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yes, it
You had to
wasn't
wait for
until
everyone else to die, huh?
it wasn't until that I saved the Suthan's grandmother. But that's another story. I don't want to bore you with the details.
Wait, he's got like a notepad out, like writing down what Melfindian is saying at this point.
If I were you, I wouldn't worry too much about the bounty. But I think that you will eventually have to face your captain, your former captain. Because that's
Nature has a way of symmetry.
That's what adventurers do, right? You're running for something until eventually you have to turn around and fight it. I have heard that I still keep contacts here and there. I have messengers as he gestures towards a bird cage with several tweeting birds in it. It says, I have heard that the Blackened Skies is in the waters of the Raised Sea, although it has not yet been seen in Tal'Anfagon itself.
Well, that is a comfort in and of itself for the moment.
He nods. I would gather that you would be not overly recognizable in this city at this moment. We get many travelers, and to most people here, you would just be another human making his way from somewhere else to somewhere else. But I wouldn't go into the orchids. It's the part of the city where the blue orchids operate out of. A little bit to the east of my tower, east of the bazaar. If you are trying to avoid unsavory characters, stick to the western shore, for the most part. The bazaar is always dangerous, so... It's dangerous, in that you're going to lose all your money there. If not from the merchants, then from the cut purses.
I raise my coffee to him and I appreciate your counsel.
Says,
Thank you, sir.
Do you like it? Is it good?
It's like nothing I've ever tasted before.
It's very pleasant, very nice bland uba. When you go to drink your coffee, it's just a double shot of espresso.
Perfect.
The idea of
Uba's
Uba
probably-
on espresso
Uba.
is terrifying.
Yeah,
Vibrates.
Uba's probably slightly shaking right now. Sulveran is just kind of staring, particularly at Alveron's tower of foam in just utter fascination.
Lord.
Alveron's got a little bit of the foam mustache just on the upper lip.
I think there's very few times when Will feels out of place with the group of 5, but like with everybody being like, "Oh, coffee," and even Alveron being like, "This is very like good coffee." I think Will is for the first time being like, "Yeah, I'm not that much of an outcast versus some of these people, I suppose. I'm a normal human."
I just want to say, Jack, I didn't say it was the best coffee I'd ever had. I said it was unlike anything I'd ever had before.
That's true, and I think Will probably doesn't count Alveron most of the time in the outsider like aspect of their group.
Fair.
But
Did
yeah.
Sulveran ever receive any tea?
Yeah,
Is the
Sulveran,
question.
you were given tea. It's a you probably never had it before. It's got a very like reddish color to it. It smells very warm. It's got like an earthy taste to it, but not overwhelmingly so. And it's just a teeny bit like just a teeny bit bitter. But he hasn't put any sugar or anything in it for you.
Yeah, I think in that after Sulveran has tasted it, he's going to tap the glass. I don't suppose that this is something that I would recognize in. He pauses for a second. Leaves in the wild. It's not something I could harvest. And he sounds mostly like he's like stating it, but still kind of hopeful.
Those tea leaves. They are native to the desert. You can find them in certain places, not along the river. You have to go into the valleys. Well, they're not very common. They don't bloom often. They're made from flower petals. The stems of a particular plant. I have a book on some desert herbology, if that interests you.
Yes, I wouldn't mind taking a look. It's written in common, I presume?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, he's going to nod because he knows that even if he doesn't make much out of most of it, Medea will.
Yeah, he'll hand it to you. It's this green leather bound book with like silver scroll work. And it's very nice. It's got like pretty detailed drawings, colored drawings.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most expensive book Sulveran has ever held in his life, and he is being exceedingly careful with it.
Melfindian that says, it also seems to me that you will be wanting to perhaps gather strength then in the city.
Yes.
If you're looking for work, well, you could always do my chores, but I presume that you'll want something a little bit more exciting and perhaps profitable. There's a few taverns which adventurers like yourself gather at. A newer to me, past 100 years or so one. Up in Dust Town, you might find amenable to yourselves is the Dragon's Tooth Tavern. They have job postings, listings, things like that. And of course, you can always walk the bazaar till you find the perfect rumor to go looking into. If you are interested in dangerous prey, well, there is a job that I know of, but it might be a bit beyond you at the moment, from what Kala tells me of your abilities. But, as they say, nobody who Didn't take a little risk, ever made any money.
Look over. What's Kala's body language right now?
Very pensive. Probably the most relaxed you've seen her, other than like when she found out that Toralus was still alive. But yeah, like kind of like thinking, contemplating, trying to figure out what the best course of action might be. She will actually chime in at this point. She says, and Tal'Anfagon will be a good place to get supplies, magic items. The only other place that would be better would be ROMs for that sort of thing. So if we do get money, we will be able to equip ourselves appropriately with it. Melfindian maps. That's very true. You could, of course, always go after the blackened skies and take the ship and then sell it. That would solve 2 problems with 1 stone.
You see just Alveron's eyes just fully expand at that and then just stare directly into the coffee and shake his head.
I
A
had a
very
feeling-
bracing sip.
I had a feeling that would be the answer.
Will
After a
laughs.
bracing sip, just not unless I had my own ship would I attempt to take the blackened sky, much less take her for a prize.
That is fair. That makes sense.
Will laughs, and like in the back of Will's brain, there's just like some wheels click into place and start turning things. And she says, I think we could probably, we've been on the road for a while. We could make these decisions after an evening of rest and recuperation.
Uba is nodding enthusiastically at that suggestion.
To Uber, it's normal speed. To everybody else, it's 4 times Uber's
Yeah.
normal body speed.
Very, very like. Oh yeah, yes, of course. I'm sorry. It's been some time since I've had so much interesting business in one day. I just wanted to get right to it. You're more than welcome to stay here for the night. Although, long term, do enjoy a bit of privacy. But, why don't I? He kind of claps, and a servant suddenly appears, previously unseen. Gestures up to it and says something that none of you understand because he starts talking in Elcarin. But he clearly gives some orders to the servant, which then vanishes and goes back away. I have instructed them to prepare dinner. It will be ready in just a few hours. Francis. For now, if there's anything else I can do for you, we can have baths prepared, individual, or I have a bathhouse that you're more than welcome to take part in. And I will have beds arranged for all of you.
You're too kind.
Kind of also looks you up and down, all of you up and down very quickly, and says, give me one moment. And he gets up, goes to a drawer. Drawer is maybe the wrong word. It's like a what's it called? Not quite a wardrobe. There's a specific word I'm looking for, but something like that. Can't believe I've forgotten the word. Opens it up.
Shifarobe?
I'm sorry?
Shifarobe?
No. That's okay. It's a French word. I can't think of it at the moment. He opens it up and he will pull out, just like glancing back one more time, pull out several sets of clothing and pile them up and begin to pass them out to each of you. So you're all gifted with a set of what seems to be cotton. They're kind of just pajamas, very casual wear. Says, if you wish to shake the sand off of the rest of your clothing, you are more than welcome to use these.
You-
Will Sulveran's like remotely fit him?
Oh yeah, they're perfectly sized actually. If you go to try them on.
Fucking magic.
Do you happen to have a private study of some kind that I could use to sit down and read for a bit?
I mostly read in this room, but you're more than welcome to take a book to your room.
Medea will sort of like comfortably shift and like start to stand up.
I think Sulveran's gonna catch Medea's elbow before they go anywhere. This one, I don't know that I want to leave with it in my keeping, and he holds up the book. But if there's anything that you might want me to record for you, I can try. My drafting is not particularly beautiful.
As long as it is readable, I will.
Melfindian will gesture towards a cat, gray coated, kind of looks like a Persian, and say, she will show you to your rooms. Just to sit back down. The cat just
I will
like,
absolutely be availing myself of the bathhouse before trying to lay down for the night.
yeah. So you all can, whoever wants to, will be taken to the bathhouse.
Yeah,
their rooms,
Will
etc.
is going to hang around in the main area, despite essentially suggesting that everybody else should go rest.
Hey, everybody, we should leave.
Yeah,
He's
we
behind
should all
it.
rest, right? And then we'll stay.
Yeah. Medea will
Um,
probably go to the bathhouse at some point too, but
I
like
think,
wait until Alveron isn't there.
sure, that's fine. There's like a bathtub in your room.
Okay. I'll
It's
use
like,
that
it's like a
probably
copper
then.
basin.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
just, it's not quite like the bathhouse. That's fancy. I think Kala will, assuming that everybody else leaves, Kala will kind of like go to walk out, glance back at Will, and like give you like, should I leave or should I stay? Why are you still sitting? Look.
I think Will notices and says, "Oh, I just was going to ask Melfindian if he had a book on the basics of speaking Elcarin. You know, since we're in this city where everyone speaks a language I don't understand."
He nods. Well, have fun with your language lesson then. And Will also
Wi-
exit.
Will, I think, while Kala is still in earshot, will also say, "Oh, and I would ask you, Melfindian, if you know anything about Vesta Vale." So Kala doesn't get the
Yeah.
idea that Will's intentionally being. Jeez, he just didn't want to
There's a
waste people's time.
in the film version of this, there's like the camera when you say that is set outside, and we just see Cal's like hair like bob as she shakes her head slightly. But we'll push back in the room, and Melfindian will say, "Oh, so no language lesson."
Oh, the
Oh, you
language
want both?
lessons.
Okay.
The language. Well, if you have a book on it, I can potentially read it in my own time. But the Vesta Vale thing, I'm also curious about. But that's not so urgent. Hopefully, it's not urgent.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like things for a moment. Well, I do have a book. I have many books on Elcarin, but I think I have one that would be well suited for you. As for Vesta Vale, I am acquainted with them. Very interesting fellow. If I am at my dawn, if I'm at my dusk, then I would say that they are still in the noonday sun, as far as adventuring goes. What did you? I haven't spoken to them in some time, although I know that they are always off doing something. What is it that you needed from them?
Oh, they've been missing for, as far as I know, some part of a year. And when Aracondis attempted to scry on them, he found that they were between planes and not really accessible. So I'm just a little concerned.
See, that's interesting. Usually when somebody is shown as being sort of sorry, one second. Usually when you are scrying on somebody and they are not sort of on this plane, then, well, it usually simply doesn't work. So being able to see something, but not quite what you're looking for, they aren't quite present, usually means can often mean that their person is there, but their spirit is elsewhere. Usually, in the ethereal, sort of actually the plane that exists between the planes. But it's very rare for a person to fully be in the ethereal plane. Maybe not very rare. It's less common, I would say. It requires more powerful sorts of magic than to simply hear your mind in that way. I think I would be able to tell you more if I attempt to describe myself, but I can tell you that there are many ways into the ethereal plane, both physically and spiritually, mentally speaking.
Will nods.
Do you know why they might have been? Do you have any? Again, I haven't spoken to them in some time. They made no mention of such a trip, although we are friends, acquaintances, not business partners, certainly not lovers, so they might not simply have thought to tell me something like that.
Will says, well, they used to purchase passage on my ship once every 6 months, as regular as anything on the ship. And they missed the last two, but had already paid for the tickets for both, which was a little bit suspicious, but I didn't really know how to deal with it. And then other things happened, and I decided to go looking myself. As Will clicks her fingers and just prestidigitates some magic, and she says, as I was starting to get better handling on the magic of the bards that Vesta had been, I think, teaching me. I'm not necessarily sure. I thought that I just had learnt it from their stories, but it seems more likely, given the more I learn about Vesta, that it was their plan to imbue me with some understanding of bardic magic. And Will kind of shrugs. But every person I've spoken to has made it less clear what is happening with Vesta.
Well, Vesta has always been a tempestuous might be the wrong word, but fickle, flighty, perhaps, person. I would say that they, in their short time, have traveled certainly not more than me, but per year, I would say more. Kind of thinks for a moment. Depending on where in the ethereal plane they are, whether they are physically or only mentally there, the time passes differently depending on how deep you go into this plane. They are quite deep. Well, then the 6 months that you haven't, or however long, the 2 tickets, so that's about what, a year or something. Regardless, however long that might be,
9 months, but
9 months. However long that might be, it's possible that they could have been in there, mentally speaking, for several years at this point. Now, that isn't necessarily the case if they are on the border. Then it would be about the same time. Maybe a year, maybe a little bit more. Now, I do know that Vesta had been talking about some strange phenomenon that she had encountered, but she didn't really say what. Might be related. I know it had something to do with dreams, which are connected to the ethereal. It's possible for people to slip in when they are dreaming, unknowingly. It can be dangerous, but most often it's fairly harmless, really. Thanks for a moment. The people who know the most about such things would be clerics, probably a cleric of a cleric of Thel or Sil would be able to tell you the most about the ethereal plane. Those are the most connected. You know, the moon's relationship with mystery binds it to that plane, as well as Thel's inverted thinking, the ability to see beyond what is merely present into what is actually there, if that makes sense. Now, I do know that Vesta did not worship any god in particular. More so, they worshipped any god at any given moment if it seemed useful. But she did ask me a little bit about Thel last time they were here. I'm not a priest. I would say that is the biggest gap in my brain space. I just never really was interested in that sort of thing. I was more about the here and now, doing things. If you like, I could, while you are staying here, take us into the ethereal plane just to show you what it is like for a moment or two.
I would always be interested in experiencing something like that. If time occurs differently the deeper you are in the ethereal, is it possible through the use of magic to devise a way that you could place yourself deep enough in the ethereal safely that you could get more time to study something?
Yes, and I've heard of wizards attempting such things, but the ethereal plane can be dangerous in and of itself, so there is risk. If you are trying to gain hours, yes, I think you could do that without sacrificing too much. If you're trying to gain years, well, then you are you're risking a lot, what to say. But it is possible. It is possible.
Will nods and like another little set of wheels starts turning. Says it's certainly far beyond anything that I would attempt, at least not for some years, I think. But it's always interesting to think about how malleable and flexible magic can be.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I sent you a spell.
Okay.
That you might be interested in that I wrote based on your descriptions. But I guess for now, I would like some kind of rest, and if you have that book to hand, I can start understanding some Elcarin.
Yeah, he'll go to a shelf and produce a small book. This one seems pretty well handled. Simple, just brown back. They'll hand it to you. This book I have given to people before. They've said it's fairly easy to understand and a quick pick up the grammar. Of course, you will need to practice before you see real improvement. But you're always welcome to attempt to converse with me.
Oh, I appreciate it. I don't suppose you know some kind of wizardly spell to allow me to absorb things a little bit quicker?
Well, you could always cast a language comprehension spell, but you are, I think, a little bit sliding past the point. I could, though, the spell prepared. Real question.
Melfindian knows every wizard spell ever written. Does he have it prepared?
Even a
Is
wizard
always the more
spell?
important question.
There's a spell that will help. I'm just like wondering. I don't even know if he could cast it. Yes. Okay.
you-
Yes. He will ask for a moment. And then cast enhanceability on you, intelligence.
Oh, great. Thank you. I said that really sarcastically. Will is very appreciative. I was like, oh, some like fancy spell. Alright, I'll go read that book in the bath. Will is very good at not getting water on books. Will's special subclass, avoid water on
Avoid
books.
water and books. He does have a lot of spells. I'm just double checking. There's not. Oh no! Wait. Here we go.
Level 9. It's Feeble Mind at level 9.
Oh no! You have to be proficient in those already. I don't think I've ever seen anybody cast this spell.
If
He says if you learn a little bit, I can help you progress quicker, but there has to be an inkling of knowledge.
all right, Will nods, and with that understanding, is gonna basically read that book as much as possible over the next couple of days.
Sulveran probably followed Alveron and whoever else went to the bathhouse. Pretty fascinated by the concept.
Yeah, Upa's there too. Probably just sticking their feet in since they can't swim.
Actually, Andrew, this is a question I guess I
Yes.
should ask you, culture-wise. I don't think we discussed it before. What's the culture aboard ships? Do gender roles exist? Is it like the old, the typical Earth fantasy of like only men were sailors, da 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 bullshit, or
No,
was
no,
there
it's pretty.
mixed?
For the most part, in Imris, it's there are probably certain things that are gender specific because of like cultural reasons or whatever. But in terms of professions and stuff like that, most places are egalitarian, taking after the after the Elcar, and then after the Romanian Empire, which are both very egalitarian. That cultural has kind of spread throughout. It's pretty even, especially compared to like normal fantasy, quote unquote.
Gotcha. So then, follow-up question: are bathhouses segregated, or is it like in some cultures where it's just open? And I'm not asking for weird reasons. I'm asking because I'm wondering if Alveron is just like Whoop! All right, we're in a bathhouse now, and I don't know if anyone else is about to
Certainly.
freak out because it's not their culture.
Certainly in Le Mans, there's like dual sex bathhouses,
Yes.
like where just like everybody is naked, and it's very funny.
hmm
Yeah, and it's
yeah.
not like the Gathite are necessarily like taking off their clothes in the snow, but they're very egalitarian too. So
Yeah, Uba's just
Gotcha.
excited to see a bathhouse. They've never seen one before.
To you, this is
Um,
just an indoor pond.
So there's this is a two-part answer. This bathhouse is not big enough to really be segregated in that way, because it's like a personal one. It's not huge. It's like large, maybe the size of a pool. But it doesn't have like two bathhouses. So, in that respect, this one isn't. However, bigger ones usually have segregated areas, even if the bathing area isn't. That makes sense. Certainly, the Elcar aren't very they're very German about it, I guess you could say.
yeah, Sulveran probably just follows Alveron's example then.
I was gonna say, Melfindian will also actually cast skill empowerment on you, and I think he will empower your natural bardic ability to your jack of all trades. I will allow that. I think normally you have to be proficient, but you're kind of proficient in everything, so
I was
it bumps it up to
100%.
proficiency.
I was 100% not here for the start of what you said.
He casts
So-
skill empowerment on you, which normally
Oh,
you would have to be proficient in something, but because you are a bard and you have jack of all trades, I'm going to say it works to give you proficiency instead of expertise.
cool. Yeah, I'll,
That makes getting through that book very much quicker.
Will certainly does not necessarily care about sharing baths with the rest of them, but knows that taking a book to a public bath with like Uber there might be a bad idea, so we'll like privately go study.
Yes, so those of you who go to the bathhouse, it is lots of like a reddish marble in here, but everything is constructed in such a way that there are lots of places where there could be a dozen people in here and you could still feel like you're in your own little corner, not really able to be seen by anybody else. So there's lots of like wall dividers and stuff like that, like nooks and crannies to the bath itself, where you could like go up and like be in a group of 3 that is very separated from everybody else. The water is nice and steamy, just like good warm temperature. And there's also a second smaller bath that is full of cool water for you to get into after you've kind of been soaking for a little bit. Unseen servants will like bring you towels and water and anything else you might want while you are in the baths. Uba, it is very pleasantly warm to your scales. You're like, And you all kind of spend some time scrubbing away the sand as the water like slowly becomes slightly reddish as you kind of rub it off out of your hair mostly. And later on, Medea will come and do the same thing. After you are all kind of bathed, ready, relaxed for a little bit, the cat, this little Persian, will come and summon you to dine. We'll just kind of stand there and until you follow it.
I cast sending to the cat, and I want to know if it like I'm basically going to ask if it understands Common as if it was a native speaker of Common, and if it can speak any languages properly.
Let me check. I have to look at the spell.
Has to have an intelligence of above 1. Will is the most flippant user of sending that I've ever played.
Definitely have intelligence above 1. I'm just trying to remember. It's a familiar.
Oh, so it just goes to Melfindian.
Is that how that works? Yeah, I'm just trying to.
I don't know. That would be funny. I think it would be funny if it probably goes to nothing. Like
Familiars are, as far as I understand, someone from the Feywild or Celestial, something like that. I think they're like Fey creatures that you bind to your service.
I think he would have to be
I mean, but they
listening
gotta
through
be.
its senses for it to go to them.
Yeah, and they've got to be able to communicate telepathically, since like that's a whole thing. So they
Yeah.
have to have some level of communication happening.
So you just hear a, a much sulkier voice than you might expect. What do you say to it in sending?
do you understand common as if you spoke it natively, and do you speak any other languages? Doesn't matter what I say, it understands what my intent is. That's how good sending is. The greatest spell in D&D, I've decided.
It says, I don't speak human, man, mortal tongues, but I can understand your words. Now come to eat.
Then Will like crouches down and goes, "You are so cute," and starts like scritching it behind the ear.
Yes, serve me.
Will does not
lower,
like that, but
lower,
Will like
lower. There we go.
no. Will chooses to not do that, and but we'll follow the cat. Maybe I don't want to know what cats are thinking.
It like plods along and like looks back at you, and it maybe stops since you stopped petting it before it was done, and like gives you a quick like pop pop on your leg, and then looks at you like, yeah, are we good? Starts walking again.
Will turns to her and says, "I think you'll find that true leadership's not bopping someone on the leg when you don't get what you like."
Just
and
like
doesn't pat it further.
Licks its paw and rubs its head.
Great. Now Will knows what it's like to have a child.
Oh God.
It is what having a cat is like.
Hey, I have a cat, and I know that that is true. Where is that cat? Who knows?
Okay. Yeah, so you all brought to a dining hall as extravagant, a dining room. It's fairly nice. There's a long, like dark mahogany table with platters set out. No silverware though. As you go to sit down, Melfindian has changed. He's wearing like more wizardly attire, robes, and he will. He has been wearing a sword. I just neglected to mention it. He is wearing a sword. He will unbuckle that and like place it on the back of this chair that he's sitting at, and say, for your dining pleasure, my chefs have prepared a variety of dishes. Mostly, since I understand that most of you have never been to Tal'Anfagon, of the local variety. Hope you enjoy all of it. And as he will like give a wave, all of the platters will come up at the same time. And you're revealed a smorgasbord of various things. Plenty of meat, roasted vegetables, sauteed, different kinds of drinks, and he kind of just invites you all to eat soups and soup-like things. He says, try the kolash. It's very good. It's the kolash bowl right there.
Will brought the book and is speaking exclusively in bad Elcarin. Like,
Hmm.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Your
Will's way of
hospital
learning
is
is to
very
just
good.
Will's way of learning is like, well, I'll just immerse myself into it. I know that 2 people here speak Elcarin that I can like get tips from, and like that's the best way to learn it quickly.
Okay.
If anybody has anything really important to say, I'm sure the 2 most intelligent people that Will knows can like translate the bad Elcarin.
Make an intelligence check. Just straight int. Well, not straight int, because you'll add your proficiency to it.
They're not straight int.
Yeah. And you also have advantage.
Okay, I'm gonna roll investigation because that just does that anyway.
That's fine. Yeah, with advantage. From enhance ability. $18. Okay.
18.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, this is like a day. You've learned like vocab.
I also intentionally learned stuff for food. Like knowing that dinner was going to be the next thing. Will is smart enough to be like, I want to learn food language.
Yeah, you know the word for fork and etc. Napkin.
A word for dagger, but not knife.
Please, may I have more?
Salt, but not pepper.
Yep.
Can he ask where is the library in Elcarin yet?
La biblioteca. Yeah, but Will continues to read while eating as well.
Your Elcarin is very, very bad. Very bad. But for one day, that's very good.
Does Melfindian respond in Elcarin? Because Will mishear that as good if it's in Elcarin.
I think he will switch between them for you. If he's saying something he actually wants you to understand, he'll say it in Gammon. But for encouragement, he'll talk to you in Elcarin.
All right, that's fine. Will's been bad at things before. It doesn't last that long.
Yeah. So you all sit down to eat. Everything is very good. To some of you, it's quite spicy. Although there are some more mild dishes. You know, a nice big salad. Every big spread has to have just one big salad in it. But everything is fresh and tastes good as you're eating. They're all chatting. Melfindian will kind of just making small talk. Say, who do I want to pick on first?
Make everyone roll a d20 and pick on the one that's the
sure.
lowest.
Why don't we do that? That's fine.
Oh, I'm gonna roll a 1. I always get punished by this. I do. I think.
6, 7.
Suggesting anything you get. Great. Even better.
Wow. Okay. Well, Alveron got 2. I'll say so. Alveron, I was related a little bit the story of how you ended up in this situation, but I'm meeting you all for the first time. Well, what did you do before you were accosted by these pirates and press ganged?
Before I was press ganged, I was actually serving out my time aboard a ship in training as an acolyte.
Oh, you were to be a priest then?
Well, I was to find myself some sort of home in a priestly order. I had not a misspent youth, but a rougher one. You know, just petty nonsense, nothing serious, no street gangs or anything, just kids being kids in a city where it's much easier to cure boredom through mischief. But community service wound up with me volunteering at the church to Similis. A certain aptitude earned me a place as a potential acolyte, and of course, being a church of Similis, had to make my what's the word? I apologize. My
Pilgrimage? Penance?
pilgrimage. Thank you.
Pilgrimage.
My pilgrimage on the sea. and the ship I was aboard was overtaken. But that was many years ago.
I think at that point, Sulveran pauses in his pretty voracious eating, because this is probably the first time he's actually felt that he's at a dinner plate, like a table that can sustain his appetite. But he's just completely paused and turned to study Alveron, slightly furrowed brow.
Do you ever think about going back once you escaped? It seems like you have stuck with your current path.
The thought occurs, and I miss my family. I miss them dearly. But it might be better for some to think that I died rather than served under a black flag. I'm not sure I want to put my family through that. And the thought of them finding me again after all this time, if they lose me again, I'm not sure I could put them through that. At that point, it's very much gesturing to an unseen servant and looking for a drink.
You are handed a goblet of wine. Fitting the mood.
Yours and your family's. The healthy quaff.
He says, I think I can understand where you are coming from. I have at times been away from my family for long periods. I have had family members disappear for long periods. But I think reunions can make it worth it.
Will is still face first in the book, but hasn't changed pages since Alveron started talking. But is nodding at what Melfindian said as well. And then as soon as there's a lull, realizes that has stopped studying and just flicks the next page across.
Kind of says to glances at Will, and says, and what about you in Elcarin? When was the last time that you saw your family?
Will takes a bit of time to pass the word family, and then given that Alveron didn't answer in a language that very few people spoke, including the person speaking it, will drop into comment to say, oh, I probably 18 months ago, maybe closer to 2 years. It's been a while. I also left my family young and then did not want to go back, but the reunion was good, though I do not have the same issues that you do, Alveron. But it's been a while.
Hold on. I'm gonna have Melfindian roll. Oh,
So it checks against Will.
Such a low plus for this character. I'm joking.
Just joking. It's plus 57.
It's not terrible. It's not his best skill. Okay. He looks at you. He says, "But all is well at home, yes?"
I think Will looks at Melfindian and is like, yeah, I wanted to uncover this wound while learning another language at a dinner table after having traveled for a few weeks fighting demons. Sure. And says, it could be better. My mother's taken ill and not recovered. The rest of the town recovered from the blight that set upon them. It's part of why I was looking for Vester. Thought she might be able to point me in the right direction. And then a lot of other things have happened. And I couldn't get back to deal with the problem, even if I found a solution right now. And she's not getting worse.
Well, that is important. If you do ever go back, or if you need help, Vesta certainly could help you, but I would not be opposed to lending what knowledge I have. I'm not a healer, but I have books
Will
and experience.
smiles and
A lot of experience. Too much, in fact.
Will smiles and says, I already asked Sulveran about it, but my mother has the threading dyers. I don't really know where that name came from. I don't know if that's the real name. It could just be what the local people around Twin Ports were calling it. You'd only recover within about a couple of weeks. But she's been bedridden for 18 months.
I see. I will think on this and let you know if I find anything.
Will nods, and then to lighten the mood back up from her dying mother.
Yeah.
Says, well, I say bedridden, but she's a baker, so she's still out of bed every day trying to, like, grow the dough and things like this. But my father quickly puts her back to bed.
Yes, the sick and injured I find are often the quickest to try to get back to work. If ever you are with somebody who is ill and they want to stay in bed, well, it's probably not that bad.
Especially true with bakers. It's very hard to stop them from rising.
Will laughs quite deeply at that joke. It's been a while since she's heard a terrible baking joke.
Sulveran just stares at Will like he's trying to figure out the joke. And back to Alveron, then back to Will. And then
I
just
think
shakes
Will-
his head and drinks his drink.
Will probably notices, but does a quick time cost analysis of explaining that joke. It's I don't think it's worth it. It's a good joke, but it's 20 minutes of explaining the nuance of baking.
And Uba, kobolds are very interesting to me, as I have had, I say, the least amount of conversations with them of any of the common races of Imris. Of course, I remember before there were any living in cities of any size. What was your family like? What brings you here? Actually, I think I know the least about you.
Uba pauses awkwardly because they just took a bite of I don't know, some sort of piece of meat and their mouth is completely full. So they take a second to think about this and say, I honestly wasn't expecting to come here myself. I intended to travel and continue my work as a bounty hunter, but once I stumbled into this group, I figured that they needed my help, and here I am.
Ah, yes, that has gotten me into trouble figuring out that people needed help. You have to watch that one.
Uba nods and says, it's hard work, but it must be done. And then continues and says, this is quite a different adventure than I expected. I was hoping to just become a bounty hunter in a larger city than where I'm from, but this has taken an interesting turn of events. And then start shoveling more food in their mouth.
Well, dragons and demons and pirate captains, no larger bounty to be found than these. The third one may be the least of these, but still a very dangerous foe.
Uba raises the leg of meat that they have in their hand in kind of a cheers fashion, and says, I don't know how many kobolds from my village have experienced similar things, but I hope one day I can return and tell them tales of my adventures.
There are a couple in town that I am aware of. Not many, though. Tal'Anfagon is still far from Karad. Well, there aren't many kobolds in any cities anywhere. But there are a few I have seen.
Uba perks up at this, actually, because they've had a lot of new experiences recently, and the idea of talking with, kobold sounds kind of comforting and familiar. So they're going to pause and say, do you know where I could find these kobolds?
Well, I could direct you towards two of them. There's one at the tavern I suggested, at the Dragon's Tooth Tavern. They spend a lot of time there. Um, there's a merchant who you could find in the bazaar, who's a kobold that I have traded with at times. Very interesting fellow, actually. I think you would either seeking out either one of them. I think be good for you. They're both well traveled.
Uba nods and says, "It would be interesting to talk to more adventurous kobolds. People in my village tend to be born there, live there, and they die there." And nod and say, I will take this into account.
Forever ago, I rolled history well enough to know about Maple and his son. Did
Yes.
that roll also tell me enough to know that Maple was from Tal'Anfagon?
Yeah, I think I said that. So
Yeah, I didn't make that note because I'm like, I will never need to bring this directly know whether or not I know that. And I think Will kind of looks over to Uber and in Elcarin says, I think Maple's from Tal'Anfagon. And doesn't realize that she's still speaking Elcarin.
Uba just kind of looks around
I
awkwardly.
think you hear
like,
the note. You probably hear the word Maple and Tal'Anfagon.
Yeah.
I think they transcend both languages.
Uba just kind of looks around as if was I supposed to know what Will said to me? And just kind of makes an awkward
That's all the information Will's willing to give anyone now.
Of course, there is probably, I would say, even fewer Gathite in Melfindian. I've met a few of your kind, but mostly up in the mountains. As he turns to start talking to Sulveran.
It is not well thought of to leave the mountains. It is true.
Yeah, well, yes, I'm more familiar with those up in the wastes up north. I traveled with one or two in my day. Never liked the cold much. So a few decades up that way was more than enough for me.
Sulveran is going to cock his head a little, and I did not find my first experience in the desert to be particularly pleasant. Enlightening, and he looks over to Medea, but not pleasant.
I could see that, but when it rains, oh, the city is beautiful. What brings you down?
Sulveran is going to pause. He's going to take a very bracing gulp of whatever has been most recently handed to him. I was of no more use to my band. I went seeking someone, did not find them, met Medea instead, and he kind of nods at them again. And this band seems to be on a quest of... Medea doesn't believe me, but I think that Mordain has her hand where I am at now. The demon who we encountered, a remnant of a demon and he's just silent for a very long time, and then he says directly to Will, what took Pelagon attacked my tribe, and then he just goes back to drinking.
So perhaps you found not who you were seeking, but what you needed to find.
I should hope so.
Will has a visible moment of adding that information to stuff, and it all clicks into place. The reaction to Pelagon's demon having such like a personal thing to Sulveran. And like then Pelagon being like, Sulveran was right. And it's like, oh, I understand now.
Yeah, even
Get
Uba
it?
is interested in that story. Uba was a little distant and focused on the food for the others, but they kind of perk up at that one.
Sulveran's probably going to clear his throat, noticing the increased interest, and say, it was the thing that cursed Pelagon was a creature of fire, unlike any we've ever seen before. It is something we will need to understand a bit better, I think, before we return.
Sara cleverly avoided Medea's turn by
Yeah.
disconnecting.
Coming up next. There we go. Of course, I been working my way over to our in masks friend. It's always interesting to me that the faces that people choose to present themselves in. I won't ask you why you're wearing a mask. I think a crude question, but
I appreciate it.
what brings you to this group?
I have unresolved business, and the course this group takes seems to be heading towards resolving it. I suppose that's the simplest way to put it. I did not come to this group expecting to find those answers, but merely out of convenience at first, but I have learned that what you need, what you find, and what you're looking for are rarely the same thing. I was happy to find at least one of those things.
I think Sulveran is going to offer over what's left of his drink to Medea, and in kind of an undertone say, it's a bit easier to talk about with whatever this is.
Truthfully, the reason I hope Sulveran's wrong about Mordain intervening is that the gods rarely help without wanting something in return.
Well, the gods are interesting. I again have never been the religious type myself, even though I've traveled with many who were. I always found that if I felt like fate was intervening or God was touching my path, more often than not, I was simply making connections randomly. That I had gone another path, I just as easily might have assumed myself to be traveling under the auspices of some or another god. Of course, not as many people have done the things that I have, but still, I think people who are so fatalist. Well, I just never took stock with that, I suppose. Though I know many people like that.
That's understandable. I have differing reactions to what I understand as the meddling of the gods in my life. That may taint my view of them as such.
I think that
Meddling.
I think that we tend to ascribe a greater importance to ourselves, no matter who we are, in terms of what the gods do and do not care for. And we underestimate our own importance to the way that the gods are themselves.
It's true. I suppose I see them a bit like a far-off king, and they're the princes or consorts of the entire world. They may not mean it, but the way their actions reflect upon us or come unto us is still personal to me. They may have great power, but well, we don't often see them use it.
It's true. I suppose my reaction to kings and princes and emperors has always been that I'm an adventurer. That time is far more important.
It's fair.
But I feel that I am needling too much, as is my want.
Yeah. I feel like Medea at this point has like finished eating and they're like practicing with the weaver's tools while they talk. Sort of like anxiously dilly-dallying with their hands.
Just for flavor, I'll mention Melfindian finished eating before he started talking to you all. Not that he didn't eat very much, just that it was like, okay, talk time.
Yeah.
Just like immediately, oh, his food's gone. Okay. Melfindian will say, of course, you're free to ask me any questions. I don't want to be the only one prying. Just the habit of an old man, I suppose.
Suppose,
Will
when did you stop adventuring?
Oof. About well, I'd come out of retirement once or twice, but really I stopped about 150 years ago or so. Once I hit 700, it was, becoming quite, not taxing, but at some point I felt that I would be better served by helping new adventurers than continuing on my own exploits. For a time I ran a bit of a school, but I think I just prefer when happenstance combines me with a group such as you, and I advise them along rather than trying to teach them the ropes.
Well, in your time of teaching adventurers, have you learned anything that you'd like to convey to us in particular before we head off on our assumedly unnumbered number of errands and quests?
Well, you'll rarely get paid as well as any treasure you might find in the places that you're going. But always ask for coin up front. Never take nothing for rescuing a princess, and don't forget to bathe.
I think Will looks directly at Kala when Melfindian says, "Always ask for money up front."
I'll just like look at you and just like, give a wink.
In Elcarin, Will says, I always knew that I had the heart of an adventurer." Like just a color. And definitely heart is like instead it's cart. Like it's just not close.
Yeah. You will always end up breaking one of these rules. Many times you will break all of them at the same time.
A number of times it will just be the bathing one. I understand. I'm sure you've heard the news, but do you intend to go visit the castle that is rumored to be flying over Tal'Anfagon sometime?
No, let the young handle that. Give you a chance to. If you are looking for riches, I would say that is not a bad place to go. Such places are always full of old magic and strange creatures.
Do you have any knowledge of the history of that place?
I have heard rumors of it, but I have not seen it, so I could not tell you which one it might be. I can tell you most of such. It's not overly large. It's more of a sky castle than a sky city. Probably ruled by, well, oftentimes by a genie. But sometimes you will find a very old, ancient wizard, often half dead, hide their life force to the place.
Well, in the future, if we were to go there, would you want us to report back with what we find?
Oh, I would be more than happy to take any treasures that you might find off your hands in exchange for hard currency. Perhaps even a magic item, if what you have is particularly interesting.
Hard
We'll
currency
keep
that
that in
you'll
mind.
give us up front.
Ah, not for purchases. This is an exchange, not a task I am hiring you for.
Hmm.
I will, however, if you promise to come to me first, impart you with several scrolls that will enable you to get there much easier.
And down, presumably.
Well, down's always the easy part. It's just
Yes.
the magic items will survive the fall.
Hire enough clerics to be at the place where we drop, and we'd be fine.
Interested in upgrading from wall faller to city faller now?
All right. Again, in Gathite, my name is Woodwalker, not Wallfaller. But City Faller would be a far grander name.
Yes. Your folly could have a much greater impact.
Would everyone like to hear how? And I think Will starts to say that she's going to tell a story about something embarrassing to do with Sulveran, and realize it was like more embarrassing for Uber, and then not like continue the sentence.
Well,
Also, it was in Elcarin, so
it has been a long dinner, and I appreciate the conversation. Head back to my quarters and take some alone time. Appreciate the chat. And
Upa,
they'll get up with their weaving tools.
maybe it's from the coffee, but Upa says, would anybody else be interested in exploring? They're feeling surprisingly energetic.
Exploring around within the area or the tower itself?
In the city.
Okay, I could be down for that. Is there a map around here that we could look at and just sort of try to get our bearings on the new city? Melfindian?
Yeah, I have a few maps of the city that you could peruse. Let me go and fetch you one. He'll stand up, walk over to the sort of lounge room that he was in previously, and come back and unfurl, have some unseen servants clear some ladders and unfurl the map, which looks strikingly similar to the one in Foundry that I have presented you with. He says, well, we are quite near to the bazaar, although it is a bit late in the day. There are always merchants working stalls. Could always go to the docks, or have a jaunt across the bridge, and well, the Ruby Palace is very beautiful, even from far away. Or the towers, or any other number of places.
Would I know you mentioned staying out of the eastern portion of where we are currently is in our best interest. If we were to head straight north, up through the merchants' quarters into that park greenish space up above, would that be?
Yes, the gardens. You would be
I'll turn.
fine, I
Go ahead.
think. That would be an okay way to go.
Look at Uba. Just any interest in a desert garden?
Upa nods and says, I'm quite interested in this. I'd like to see it.
I kind of open it up to if anyone else is interested in taking a walk a little bit through the city.
Sulveran's gonna nod.
Right.
Will looks at Kala to see what Kala's inclination is.
Kala seems to be happy to let them go on their little adventure.
All right. In that case, we'll head to Medea.
Can Medea hang out with Kala and just consult the book on demonology with him?
Sure, they're happy to.
Yeah.
They're probably going to stay in the lounge and just
Yeah.
do some reading and relax for a little bit.
Ask if they want to try to learn a bit what language would this be? Would the demon language be abyssal or infernal?
I've always used them interchangeably.
Okay, yeah. Ask
for
if
this
Kala
particular thing.
wants to peruse or wants to take a shot at learning it over time as well.
Yeah, Kala will say, "Oh, yes, that would be very interesting. It was going to be part of my training, but that's been put on hold."
I figured it would be useful in the future. We could understand their runes, language, that nature.
She nods. Yes, I think that you're certainly right. And she'll pull out. I've been studying a little bit, mainly for the book, just learning to translate runes individually. And you two will kind of begin conversing about that.
Yeah.
I think we're going to jump over to the other three, but first, why don't we take a quick break? We'll say 15 minutes.
All right.
Like a good spot.
Break it is.
Cute. All right, we're back. Hello, everybody. Um, okay, so we will start with Alveron, Sulveran, and Uba heading for a jaunt on the town. I think I had said that you guys had arrived around midday or so, like, fairly afternoonish. By the time you bathed, relaxed, chatted, eaten, it's like dusk now, thereabouts. You'd see the horizon purple off in the distance, with some yellows and golden oranges, as the sun is dipping below the skyline. You kind of come out, and there are still there's still plenty of people about. Actually, it's actually seemingly gotten a little bit busier now that the sun has gone down. So the streets are crowded. As you look about, you're kind of like you've seen this map, but you're trying to get your bearings now. Mapless. Why don't I get one of you to make me a survival check as you are trying to navigate your way towards the gardens?
That might be. Uba would probably be the best at that.
Sulveran's
try.
definitely too overwhelmed by there being so many people to even be thinking about it.
Yeah, if it was dockside, I'd make it, but I feel like you probably got the best chance here.
Hooray.
Me too. Okay, you know which way is north. Sun's setting that way, so we need to go this way. All right, follow me, everybody. As the two of you are led by our dear Kobold. Yeah, and you're just walking through. Would you like to walk through the bazaar, or would you rather go around? There's a sort of large, the like distinctly white roads are large paved pathways.
Mm-hmm.
But you could easily cut through the windingness and get there a little bit quicker, actually.
Where was Melfindian's tower?
His tower is right around here. Map is so big that my ping is quite small. Let me. Just kind of southeast of the bazaar.
Okay. I mean,
Or
going through the
southwest.
bazaar, we're gonna like wander into a lot more traffic. If we just go around it, we will make a little bit quicker time heading towards what we're actually going for, right?
Yeah, I don't know if the goal is to wander or you want to try to get to the gardens.
Up to Uba. Do you have a particular desire? Do you want to walk through the bazaar and see what's there, or do you want to get straight to the gardens?
I think. Wait, I'm trying to see. The merchants' quarters is the area that Melfindian said is like a little sketchy, right?
No, that's a nice-ish neighborhood, like pretty solidly middle class. It's the orchids down here, the 8 on the map. That is
the orchids are where people who
to
might
avoid.
want to put my head on a spike are.
Gotcha. Okay, so if that's the case, it might be easier, since we're still trying to be a little bit sneaky, to go around the bazaar.
Okay. So you kind of take the broad thoroughfare around the bazaar. You still do pass by stalls. The outskirts of the bazaar. In fact, probably some of the nicer ones. In the most prime locations. Anybody who wants to can roll me a D100. But you can also
D100?
choose not to if you would like. Yes, a D100.
I can never resist a DL100, even when it's risky.
You say there's an option to not roll?
Yeah, you don't have to roll.
That's the most evil thing I've ever heard.
There's a 90 in there.
Oh, that's not. Yeah, that's either really good or really bad there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm a little bit concerned.
And you just bases it all on digital root, so it's actually a 9, a 7, and a 1.
No,
that doesn't really obnoxious.
You didn't quite get into, I think, you didn't get into the best range with a 90. You're still a little lower. So Sulveran, I'm just gonna go in roll order. You all are kind of walking along. Eventually, you, as you are kind of walking along all these stalls along the broad thoroughfare, Sulveran, somebody calls out to you amongst the crowd and say, you there, tall Gathite fellow, why don't you come over here? I have something that might interest you. As you can hear these kind of whirrings and clackings, like the sounds of kind of metal on metal.
Sulveran is gonna look at the other two, look towards the caller, and say, it's not often that somebody directly has called me, but it seems a little bit. And he just looks at Alveron, kind of assuming that Alveron would know whether or not he should even like bother to engage with this person.
If you glance over at the person in the stall, it is a gnomish person wearing kind of like quite a lot of clothes for how hot it is. They've got like a thick like workman's overalls on. They've got like gloves and goggles on their head. Their hair is like standing up quite wild, a little bit tousled. And they look like they've just been subjected to a blast of something. Just like black around their eyes, where clearly they were wearing the goggles, but they've moved them up.
I cannot see at all why he thinks I'd be interested in him, but he is odd.
Uba is going to say, I'd be careful of people calling you out specifically. You never know what they might want. I'll keep an eye on your coin purse for you. And Uba is like right up next to you, making sure no one like tries to steal from you while you're distracted.
Yeah, Sulveran, Alveron just kind of looks around. I mean, we're on the corner of the market, and this is nothing new to me. But it's like, well, you might get a deal. Maybe he likes the cut of your armor or the way you swagger and thinks he can make a deal. Just kind of look around. If you can get a deal, it's worth taking it. This is why we're here, right?
To both Uba and Alveron. First to Uba, he kind of like pats his shoulder and, well, you are guarding an empty purse.
Uba.
Me to my student loan collector.
Yeah. Uba is going to kind of puff out their chest and say, it's the principle of the matter, and is still right by where your empty coin purse is.
Well, I trust you to do so, and he's just going to give a very telegraphed shrug and wander over, to stare down at this tiny little gnome. And what in particular, sir, makes you think that I would be interested in your wares?
He pulls up a like little blanket that he probably sits down every time just to do this little trick. And below it on the table, you see lots of wildly different things, from figurines to big locks, some strange like fist-size thing with a wick on one end, a pair of goggles similar to the ones that he's wearing, and all sorts of little tools. And he says, welcome. I think that you are the kind of very interesting person who might be capable of buying something that I have. One such as yourself, you have a traveled look about you. You might be interested in things such as my wares. As he says, this is a Clockwork Bird. And I'll hold it up to you. It's like a little brass bird, like kind of like a Tweety bird. It like looks around and tweet, 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 tweet. This you can only find here at the bazaar in Tal'Anfagon. I promise you, if you're traveling around, you could sell this for a very high price, or give it to a lady love, or lady man love. something. Anyways, I also have these goggles. If you can't see at night, no, but these will help you see at night. Yes. No. Oh, okay.
Sulveran is just staring at him, and he glances over to Alveron.
Have you ever wanted to tell time? If he'll pull out like a little thing, click, click, click. Yeah.
The sun and the moon do that, don't they?
But have you ever wanted to know exactly what second it was, or how you could count time in a race, or figure out when you need to leave?
I have not wanted to know the exact second.
Okay, bad audience.
Uba's quite interested in all of this, I will say that. Uba's interested in the shiny things.
Let me see if you notice.
Yeah, Sulveran is watching Uba carefully because he knows how they get around shiny things. He's less worried about his coin purse
He does
and
not
more other
notice
people's.
Uba. He's too busy paying attention to trying to win Sulveran back over. Well, God. How about you hunt, right? Maybe you're a hunter. I have a hunting
no.
trap.
You might try my friend here, and he's going to nudge Alveron. I believe he actually has coin to spend, and he's going to say that. And as he says that, he's just watching this guy for his reaction, and he pats his empty purse.
Excellent, much better. I'd rather sell to somebody who has this coin. You, sir, could very well be interested in any of these fascinating objects that I've just explained to your friend here.
I'm afraid the coin is saved for someone else, my friend. I'm merely escorting these two throughout the bazaar, but you have the voice of a salesman and the mind of a scholar. Now start to move us along, if it seems like no one else wants anything.
Shit, wait, I've got explosives. You want to blow something up?
Uba slides back in front of the stall.
Yes. Save the best for last.
How much of a lack of propriety am I showing if I like grab Uber right now? I think that's gonna get me bit. They're like, no, we're not allowing Uber to have explosives.
You'll not find your explosives anywhere. As you start to, I'm assuming, start to try to drag Uba away.
Like, I mean,
I
I'm
think
like
you'd be
reaching out to
successful.
Uba, but like I don't want to get bit, so I'm just like.
I think Sulveran
Well-
probably sees this and just does not hesitate to just catch Uba by the shoulder and say, "Well, I still need you to protect my purse," and walk away quickly.
Uba is pouting, but follows Sulveran, while glancing back at the stall a couple times.
Yeah, we get a close up on the gnome. It's just, you lost them again. Do better at this.
This is
And
gonna be like
as he
Bandit.
recovers his all of his various things with a blanket.
He's selling legit, interesting technological advances to the Imris world.
Yeah.
And these three are just like, Uber, you're not even allowed to think about it.
Okay, specifically, I am worried about Uba having anything with explosive properties. Night vision goggles in Uba, I think, is fantastic. The more ankles that Uba can bite in the dark, the better for the entire party. However, again, what's the Harry Potter character? Was it Seamus Flanagan, who had
Yes.
particular proclivity for pyrotechnics? Yeah, no, I feel like that would be small potatoes compared to Uba's creativity.
Probably, yeah.
Don't worry, I'm
probably
pretty
the
sure I
name.
can make explosives with Tinker's tools. It's fine.
All right.
You've used up your quota of P words for the night, Sean.
I have. Plus, that was a direct Minerva McGonagall quote. So,
You guys continue walking, make your way through streets.
good segue.
Already, that gnomish.
Excellent. All right. Sir, yes, sir. Over there. Yes, you, the tall one, handsome-looking man, as he gestures towards Alveron. Might I interest you in some transportation? I have all sorts of things that you might be able to ride, walk, or sit upon, including magic. Huh? Huh?
Knowing absolutely in my heart that there is no way that I can afford whatever is about to be presented to me, 100% I walk up with the confidence of fucking Jeffrey Bezos ready to buy out this company. Let's rock.
Ah, yes, you are a discerning gentleman, I can see. I have in my stores a variety of things that you might be interested. Not all here present at this modest stall, but available nonetheless for purchase. You look like the kind of fellow who would like to ride in style. I have for you, a carriage that is of beautiful make and quality. You travel a lot? It's like trying to get a read for you.
I find myself and my close family traveling quite a bit, of course, as any man does in this age.
Overland, or perhaps you would be more interested in sea travel.
It depends on what the gentleman has to offer.
Oh, I have a variety of sailing ships set at the docks just for one such as yourself. Yes.
Totally out of
Hey.
character. There's just no way we're able to. I have 20 gold in my purse.
This guy doesn't
There
know
is
that.
no way there is a ship.
You're
He
wearing
doesn't know that.
your fancy disguise.
Right. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm like, really? Do you have paperwork for these ships?
Oh, of course. And he'll like flap out some papers and smack them down. He says, "Here, take a look. Nice sailing schooners. The kind of thing that you could pilot by yourself, or just with one or two other people. Nice sailing cruise along the river or along the coasts. Take a nice girl or man, person of indeterminable gender." No.
Well, he was further
Incredibly-
about that than the other one, and he points back in the direction of the gnome.
Oh, that was the most smooth gender affirmation I've ever had in my life. Fantastic. I look over. How many zeros do these ships
Oh,
starting
you
prices
could
have?
never. You couldn't afford this if all of you pulled together.
Fantastic. He doesn't know that though.
You could buy a rowboat.
A rowboat. Fantastic.
These sailing ships that
there-
he's trying to sell you are 10,000 gold.
10,000. Okay. Well, all right. I'm having flashbacks to affording college. So okay. So looking over all those, there are specific like dock numbers, right? Like this ship is docked at this number, this ship is docked at blah blah.
Probably not. It's mostly names and like registrations, like
Okay.
the title kind of thing. It would
Okay.
probably wouldn't specify like where it's docked at currently, but it has like
Okay.
descriptions like dimensions, sails, etc. Like what you would need to know to be able to pilot it, kind of thing.
All right. Just for the sake
the
of anyone
displacement.
watching, Marisa just said the last thing we need to do is steal a boat. But I just want to make absolutely clear that Jack and I think since session 1, have absolutely been waiting for when we get to steal a boat in this campaign. So,
I am not.
No,
I'm not okay with being part of that.
God.
If we
All right,
wanted a
fine.
boat, if Will wanted a boat, Will would have a boat literally right now.
I'm just saying, grand larceny is in our future. All right.
Yeah, Grand
It's
Theft
there.
Boat will probably happen,
Grand
but Will
Theft
is
Boat.
not. I have not been waiting for it. It's very important. I have not been waiting for it. I'll be there when it happens, but I have not been waiting for it.
You're not waiting for it. You're anticipating it. That's the distinction.
Yeah, I mean the party kind of requires it.
That's fair.
Sulveran is going to actually lean into Alveron and, as like discreetly as he can manage, mutter, "You did say that there would need to be a boat for," and he just like gestures at him as though to say, solving your problems.
I'm just looking at Sullivan and it's just, yes, I did mention on account. Not saying this out loud. I'm looking at you with a look that says, "Oh yes, the whole pirate thing. Stealing a boat will solve the whole pirate thing, 100%." Remember how you used to accidentally be a pirate? What if you just made you pirater? How about that? Oh God.
Sulveran does
Or
not
a
quite
pirate
lift his hand up to hide his
intentionally
smile in time. Does not quite conceal the fact that he's been jerking your chain this time.
My God.
Come on, you know you want to buy. I can see it in your eye. You are in need of a boat. I have a nice
Tell you what.
sailboat, only 5,000 gold. Easily
Tell you what,
pilotable
good
by
sir.
one person.
And is there a scrap of paper somewhere on his little cart or his stall?
He's got some
Or, like-
leaves of paper, probably for making out contracts or something.
I slide one of the pieces of paper across, and I'm like, "You tell me what dock to be at, and I will work out a time with yourself and one of your associates. Then I will come down and inspect one of your fine wares when I am not escorting these fine individuals throughout the city, because you have the voice of a salesman and the mind of a scholar, and I would love to tour one of your fine boats."
I can appreciate a businessman of such acumen. Yes, of course, we have the docks just along the river, just south of Newbridge, that you can, and he'll give you a dock number. You can come by, visit if you would like. I have an associate who is there, and he can easily fetch me whenever you need.
Fantastic. All right. It shall be as you say, good sir. It shall be as you say. And tip my very fine hat, and we'll continue on our way, I suppose. Unless either of you have 5,000 coin to spend to get us a boat.
I'm gonna pass on that one.
I mean, Uba might at this point.
I
get
think
asked-
175 gold is a little bit different than I think 10,000 you said.
I think
it's a deal.
They have a
should
cheaper
we
one
get
for 5,000.
Melfindian to buy us a boat?
Maybe you could ask. What's for Melfindian? As you guys are nearing the end of the bazaar, you are passing up and down when somebody starts to shout over to Uba. He says, you look like a discerning customer, somebody who would be interested in all sorts of leather goods, bags, magic things. Come, take a look at my stores.
Uba is kind of surprised that they were being addressed by one of the shopkeepers, but will go over.
He says, you, my friend, look like you could use perhaps some better armor than what you are wearing. I have some excellent leather work that you could very well be interested in. How would you like some studded leather armor? Highest quality only, I assure you, my friend.
Uba is just gonna kind of turn their nose up at that and say, "What else do you have?"
Wait. I also have the finest leather bags that you could help for. I'll pull one out. It's the stitch work, impeccable. You will never find something better. I promise you, my friend. The only thing better, which I also have, looks you up and down, it's a bag of holding. Now you look like somebody who could use a bag of holding, yes?
Uba is a little curious about this and says, How would that work?
Ah, well, you've never seen it. And he'll pull one out. He says, "This bag can contain far more than it appears. You could," and he kind of sticks his hand in, stick your whole arm in such a bag. It can hold much, much more than a person could hope to carry on their own, and the weight never changes, as he like kind of hefts it. This one is, of course, red leather, but I also make them in purple.
I think that Uba actually is going to be very tempted by a purple bag that they could fit tons and tons of treasure in and not have them be weighed down. So they're gonna reach out to like hold the purple bag. They just want to like examine it.
Yes, inspect, feel the quality. This was enchanted by the finest arcanists in the city. I promise you.
Uba is kind of like looking at it, and their inspection includes flipping it around, sniffing it a couple times, and then they stick their whole head in the top of the bag.
You are subjected to just like extra planar space, and you're like, oh god, what am I looking at? There's like some stuff in here, like some what clearly look to be like sample items, like a brick and like a lead weight that he probably was like, here, you can stuff this in it and like lift it up and it won't change weight. And he just like forgot or left in there. And he's like, wait, you can't breathe in it.
If Uba was able to hear that, then he's going to pull his head out really quickly and say, how much?
Or as he kind of like gestures to like take it back and set it down on the table, for such a finely crafted item, I could part with it for no less than, looks at you, 750 gold pieces. I assure you, a fine deal.
Uba is wildly disappointed, but not showing it, and is going to think for a second and then say, I am a well-traveled adventurer, and a well-traveled adventurer like myself would be happy to tell others about this shop and your particular items for a significant discount, and is going to try and get this price down below
I'm traveling
something
with an
we can afford.
influencer right now.
Make a persuasion check.
Okay. Yeah, Uba only has 174 gold, so we'll see if this actually works. Persuasion.
The adventurer discount. I am familiar with such a thing. Yes. For one so well-traveled, influential individual such as yourself, I could bring the price down to 650. And of course, you would share the name Tanlin's Leather Goods across the land.
Uba desperately wants this bag, so they're gonna make a mental note of where it is.
Okay.
Not try to steal it, at least now, but say, I think I need to think about it some more, but will you be here tomorrow?
Oh, Tanlin is here every day.
Uba nods and says, I will consider it and come back tomorrow with my decision.
Put that in
and
chat for you.
Huh?
I'll go ahead and put his name in chat for you, or the name of the business.
Yeah, and Uba makes a mental note of perhaps it's possible to steal this bag, but is not going to let anyone else know that.
With that, you have cleared the bazaar. You're not past people yelling at you, but it's more mundane stuff. Nobody quite catches your eye the way each of those previous merchants did, or at least catches your attention. And you make your way up. You start to go up a little bit in terms of like kind of you're walking uphill a little bit. And eventually you arrive at a very shaded area. There's one like gated entrance. It says nobody's ever been here before. The Gardens of Ursandil. They're open, and you guys kind of enter in to a sort of paved walkway. There's a main one that seems to curl around and up around the lake, and then many small ones that kind of just go off in random directions, kind of looping around. So you could just kind of walk through. There's all kinds of different trees. Palm trees, bushes, date trees. You see some like kids running around and like just picking dates up off the ground and eating them, etc. And it's just very peaceful. You can see a couple of old people just sitting down, casting fishing lines, waiting. Probably not all. Actually, it's probably like a pretty motley group of people just like sitting there fishing. Why they're fishing at this little pond and not the sea or the river? But they seem to be catching stuff as one of them like starts to reel one in. But it is very peaceful and relaxing.
All right. I vote for the main trail as we loop about, and then if we see something interesting or fascinating as we walk around, we'll split off onto a side path. How does that sound?
Uba nods in agreement and is contemplating the idea of catching and eating a fish.
Andrew, as
Yes.
we're walking along, is anyone else armed as we're walking? Is it like common to see people with a sword strapped to their hip?
Yeah, it's
or-
actually, as you've been walking through the city, it's certainly not uncommon to see people with weapons. You see a lot of long swords and scimitars in the city, but you'll also see people with bows, kind of either like worn around their chest or just like hanging off of a strap somewhere with like a quiver on their side.
Okay.
It's not like every single person, but 1 in 10 or so. It's certainly like fairly common.
Gotcha. So just making sure we don't stand out.
Yeah, armor is maybe a bit less common than having a sword, but still, again, like not super rare.
Okay.
Although people do kind of stop and like glance at Uba and Sulveran occasionally, if for the height difference alone, if nothing else.
Sulveran is probably following with a little bit, like he's a little bit distracted by all the plants and herbs to look at and the little flowers. He's definitely the stop and smell the flowers type.
Yeah, and there's a variety of flowers, some of which you are sure are not native to the desert. You see flowers that you know are more common to the mountaintops and probably wouldn't do very well here. There seems to be some magic or other, like some part of the upkeep is keeping a lot of these plants alive. Many of them are not native to the desert. There are a couple houses like around here. It is still part of like the neighborhood. It's not like walled off, so to speak. So you'll see people like just like sitting on their balconies as the sun is setting. By the time you get there, it's like basically night. I think a lot of the you're getting the switch over from like kids and people fishing to like couples walking, having a late night stroll and stuff like that. Punk kids just hanging around for no reason.
You mentioned the kids picking up like the dates and stuff. Does it look like the kind of garden where people just, pick from the plants as well?
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem you as you're looking about, it doesn't seem like it seems like people are kind of intentionally trying to not like take directly from the plant. They're like trying to pick up stuff that's fallen or is like clearly ripe going to overripe as opposed to like cleaning the place out. Presumably that would be a little bit rude.
Are these like urchins doing this, or are these well-to-do enough people to live in this neighborhood?
I would say it's pretty mixed.
Okay.
You definitely see some like kids nicely dressed together with some like other kids in maybe not rags, but clearly more worn-in clothing. There aren't very many children in general, so when you do see like a group of them, they kind of stand out.
Do we draw any special attention just being on, this kind of a mixed group?
But yeah, people are looking at you. Not really Alveron. They're really looking at Sulveran and Uba, as both Gathite and Kobold are not very common in the city.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the whole way he's following, Sulveran is keeping like an eye out, especially on those mountain plants for things he recognizes and thinks might be useful in general on their journeys or just pleasant. He also, anything that like the tea that he'd found previously, the that kind of thing.
Alveron, can you roll me good die, bad die?
Say that one more time.
Can you roll me good die, bad die? That's 2d20.
Yeah, I know what you want when you say that. I just had to hear it again. Ugh.
It's always bad when he calls for a specific person and doesn't say whoever wants to.
Yeah.
Very high rolls, very close together. Right, so that's a 19 and 18. Okay. So, as you're walking along, you're kind of chatting, looking, people watching as people are also watching you. Otherwise, having a nice night. Like, it's cooled down a lot now that the sun has gone down. It's very pleasant out. There's a little bit of wind, but not too much. Just it's breezy rather than gusting. And it is pleasantly not a lot of sand here. Eventually, as you are kind of watching Uba and Sulveran are maybe like looking at a plant, you get bumped. Just like somebody's clearly like not paying attention and like as they were walking along, accidentally like bumped you on the shoulder, and you turn to like look at this and like probably check your purse, like react very quickly, make sure you're not getting lifted from or anything. And you come face to face with a similar human, a human woman who kind of like goes to say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then they like look at you for a second longer and say, "Wait a minute, don't I know you from somewhere?"
Do I recognize her at all?
Make an intelligence saving throw.
That's not ominous at all.
I'm nervous.
Huh?
Okay, you do recognize this woman. You've seen them once or a couple times. You know that they used to work with your captain, the now deceased captain of the Blackened Skies. That they are a sort of fence that has worked with the ship before. If you ever found anything like more than just like trade goods on a ship for whatever reason, like an artifact or some rare item, magic item kind of thing, she was a fence that you would sell stuff to.
Okay.
But as you're standing there, she still hasn't recognized you yet. Yeah, so she was friends with Orthoran, the previous captain. Oh no, wait, that's the new captain. I'll find his name.
I don't think we ever actually named the
We
old
might
captain.
not have. Yeah, I'll think of a name for him right now.
Desderin?
Sure.
I'll put that into the thing. Yeah, seriously. Kind of immediately as I make eye contact with her and recognize her. What is her name?
Her name is Stena.
Fenna?
Stena. 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 Stena.
T-E. Is she in the company of anyone?
No, she seems to just be traveling, like, kind of wandering the gardens by herself. She is armed. She's got a scimitar at her side, but doesn't seem to be
Gotcha.
really isn't really wearing armor.
Would Lady Stena be an appropriate honorific in the gardens, or
It wouldn't be inappropriate, yeah. Like, you weren't overly familiar with like her station, but
what would be the most appropriate greeting?
um, since you don't know, probably lady. Otherwise maybe mistress. Or just
Gotcha.
miss.
I'll err on the side of being more formal, just because probably then
Yeah.
with everything, she knew me when I was the negotiator for the ship. If she knew me under Deserin,
Mhm.
so more formality was probably expected of me than just a normal deckhand. At which point, I kind of doff the cap, and not to the extent of lording it over and everything, but just recognizing her. Oh, Lady Stunna, how wonderful to see you! I haven't seen you since our old friend Captain Deserin was negotiating the sale of, shall we say, some of the church's finest. It's wondrous to see you again.
Says, well, it's very interesting to see you again. You know that you're a wanted man.
Oh. Well, you know my reputation. I was wanted in many ports, but it is wonderful to know that you're tracking my want. I would hope to hear that your want for me is more a want for conversation than the want that the orchids, I hear, feel for me.
Well, I am no bounty hunter, but I do still work with the Blackened Sky.
Huh. I nod my head, and then perhaps my greatest hope should be that you want to forget that we met in this garden, at the very least, for the sake of the love we both had for Captain Desert. His passing was unfortunate.
Make a persuasion check.
Is
The two of
Sulveran
you-
noticing any of this
Yeah, the
while
two of
he's
you have now
sniffing the flowers?
same
have
for
now
Grupo.
noticed this conversation happening. You maybe missed the reason it started.
How in the hell, if I have expertise in a skill, I can't roll above a 5.
It wasn't a 1.
Better than a 1.
Better than a 1. It's still 12. She says, well, I do still have to do business. You understand. The old captain was a dear friend. The new captain less so, but he still pays. What are you doing here? You must know that they're looking for you in almost every port there is.
I look back at my two compatriots.
Yeah, Sulveran is probably still looking at some flowers.
And look back. Say, I am here helping those who helped me with a great deal. And I found my life here. And I found it away from those who choose to make gold of blood.
Roll
I much
another
prefer-
persuasion check with advantage.
Okay.
Okay. I thought you rolled
Yay.
a 14. I was like, wow, oof. Okay, 25. That's much better. She kind of looks at you and she says, well, that was more sincere than I was expecting. You've caught me on the back foot here. Feel a little bad for you, honestly. What is it that you're trying to do? Who are these people to you?
Lady Senna, you know that aboard a ship, everyone is bound to serve each other's lives and save each other's lives. The expectation is we work with each other and the ship survives. This group, more, we save each other because we choose to. And these people have saved my life a few times, and I've saved theirs. Something is wrong in the world. And I haven't yet begun to unravel a tenth of it, but someone is hunting a dear friend of mine, much the same way I'm being hunted. And I fear if I don't figure out and stop whatever's hunting her, it'll mean a poor fortune for every port that I've ever loved.
By this time, Sulveran and Uba have definitely noticed this conversation and are probably listening in. She'll look at you and say, you know, when I recognized you, I really expected you to try to run or not this, I guess. Tell you what, for such an honest man, I'm not going to say anything to anybody who might inconvenience you, though it would be good business to do so, certainly. If you want to be safe in this city, safe apart from, of course, if the Blackened Sky ever makes port here, then you might want to go around the orchids and ask for somebody. So, like, pull out a piece of paper to write down a name for you. She'll say, they're known as the Lady of the Petals. Landorinia.
Landorinia, Lady of Petals.
Hand you a script. Just be prepared to Meet her under escort.
Hmm.
You might be able to get out of the bounty, at least here, by speaking with her. You might need a bit of coin for it. You might need to do something about it for them. But if the other option is to watch out for bounty hunters and anybody else who might recognize you, then it might be a good course of action.
Hmm.
And if you've ever got something to sell, I'll be in town for a few months.
Hmm. I take
Just
all of what she said to heart.
one last thing. The Blackened Skies is going to be here in 3 months. I'll be waiting for them. And if they ask about you, he shrugs. And she will go to continue on her walk.
As she begins to walk away, I'll call out, Lady Stenna. As she turns back, one good turn deserves another, then. I don't know what you have in stock right now or what you've been trading in. Melfindian's Tower. Whatever you have in demonology, or whatever rumors you've heard about the movements of the dark, I imagine in the next few weeks that might begin to sell better.
Just gives you like a wave without turning around.
Okay. I immediately turn to Uba and Sulveran.
And just for the other two's sake, to get some description, also for Sean, because even though Alveron is a person, you both see walking away a pretty tall, although they seem to be wearing like heeled shoes that you can hear them like clack on the cobblestones. Um, Human woman, really curly dark hair that's kind of not really in a bun, but it's pulled back and poofs out the top. There's probably a name for that hairstyle, but I don't know. With very dark skin, but silver eyes.
Ubo's gonna stare at Alveron and then at Lady Stenna walking away and kind of gesture and say, "Now what was that all about?"
And Alveron, like the whole facade of like knowing what the fuck he's doing, just drops right there as soon as her back is turned and she's walked away. It's just okay, cool. That went well. You're good? Yep, you're good?
I'm not the one being apparently haunted by shadows of my past. Should we be moving back quickly, or do you think that's over?
I think I'm about the safest I've been in the last year. Um, that was I hesitate to say a friend from my past. She worked with my old captain. She was a fence and a dealer of questionably acquired goods.
When you say old captain, then you mean the first, and he very dramatically lowers his voice and then doesn't say anything, just mouths pirate.
Yes. That pirate. Just with you, we're like alone in the gardens type thing. Yes, that pirate captain thing. Yes. And She and I both prefer the old captain, but I understand her position. But she let me know that there's a chance for safety here in the city, and she also let me know that the Blackened Sky is going to be docking here within 3 months. So I have to think about that. But she gave me a name, and I kind of slide the paper across to both of you for you to read. The Lady of Petals, Landorinia. Do either of you recognize that name?
I'm sure Uba wouldn't.
I don't think Sulveran or Uba would have a reason to even be allowed to roll this.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, Sulveran wouldn't even try. He looks at the name for a little while, parsing it out, and then passes it back and says, "I know what petals are."
Alveron, you can make a history check if you would like. It's pretty difficult for you, but you can make it.
I was gonna say history is not my strong suit, anyways, but let's check it out.
Ooh.
How in the
17.
hell do I roll that for that check?
You kind of think about it. You're like, you think you maybe have heard somebody mention Lady of the Petals at one time in like hushed tones.
Say again?
In like hushed tones a little bit, like something Lady of the Petals. But like they seem to be like a very secretive figure, so you don't know very much about them. You have heard the name on other occasions aboard ships and at inns.
Okay. This is uh this is a title, and it is the title of someone who is not known type thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Guessing that Lady Senna has already disappeared off into the gardens.
Oh yeah.
All right. Uba, Sulveran, any other questions about our conversation?
I think Uba's going to kind of scowl at Alveron and say, "It appears your past may be complicating things for us." It's going to give a little bit of a, not an icy stare, but like a stern stare.
Holding.
Sulveran just like reaches down and just like flicks him on the shoulder, just like a a very light, very deliberately light flick, but just scolding. You said already that this woman is from a time when you were a thief, and you trust what she says about, and he points at the paper.
I trust in the honor between thieves, if not the honor of thieves. And there's a very big difference between the two. And giving me information like this would be as good as writing her own death warrant.
Unless it's not the information you seek. Perhaps in asking for this woman of this paper here, it just seems questionable to me.
It is. And it's a risk. But it's a risk, if I can avoid it, that I won't have borne out by you. If I can
Why do you think
discharge.
I followed you into the city today? I do not exactly find these crowds pleasant.
I would hope it's not babysitting duty. I feel you have better things to do with your time.
Sulveran's going to like give him a long look. Maybe I do not understand the common. Baby is for an infant, yes, a child in arms.
If subtext difficult. Were you watching over me?
Certainly.
Worried I would betray?
Andrew, when you said that we caught the end of that conversation, did we catch the part of the conversation where Alveron was describing his loyalty to the group?
Yeah, I would say you could have listened in on most of that conversation, but
Yeah.
up to you guys.
Okay. So he's going to his brow furrows a little bit, like a little V, as he makes certain that he understands what he means by betray before he looks down to Uba and looks back to Alveron. If I thought you had any intent of betraying any of our band, I would have seen to that a long time ago.
Good. That's who I want to travel with.
Sulveran just gives him a very slow, stern nod, and then tilts his head back toward the gardens. There's a plant I want to check on before we return. And he's actually gonna nudge Uba, and he's going to bring it over to him. He thinks he saw. He doesn't necessarily have seen anything that's of healing value, but he is trying to describe things to Uba and just give them common names of anything that he recognizes. Since Uba has a newfound interest in healing recently.
Yeah, Uba will give one more glance at Alveron. They're not quite as convinced as Sulveran was, but will follow Sulveran towards the plants.
Yeah, and after that, he's willing to head back.
Yeah, I think Uba is definitely ready to info dump to Will.
All right.
And is
everyone is sitting there ready to info dump to Will.
Yeah.
I don't even need to be here for this information. I'll get it secondhand through two people that didn't understand what happened.
Yeah.
You spend a little bit more time in the gardens looking at the various flowers and plants. Make a nature check, Sulveran.
Got it. No.
There's a lot of interesting variety here. A lot of it is unfamiliar to you, but you're kind of taking a mental note of it, maybe to look up in your book, or the books that Melfindian has later on. But nothing in particular really catches your eye. You do, however, eat a couple of very juicy strawberries before, as it's becoming night, very full night. The moon hanging high up above, you all begin to make your way back to Melfindian's tower, much the same way that you came in. Eventually arriving and opening up the doors to find the home fairly quiet. You could maybe hear Kala and Medea kind of talking to each other in the lounge, discussing the sort of different runes and various other things.
Yeah, studying the book. By the way, while we're there, I'd taken a quick detour to ask Melfindian if he has any more advanced books on demonology for the future as well, or just basic book guides on Infernal, Abyssal.
Yes, of course. I have very many of these sorts of tomes. You're free to peruse my libraries, your leisure. Just don't remove any of the books, please.
Yeah. Medea's just been poring over them and reading them, making notes.
Okay. Excellent. But yes, the
Melfindian
three of
also
you
in the
return.
lounge.
He's around. He's probably doing stuff.
I mean,
You
Will's
maybe
also
catch him if you're going to looking for him at some point, like during the middle of when they're gone. You maybe catch him in like the entrance area, the sort of wide open space where he has a dummy has been summoned and he's like out with a sword, just like very like almost not moving, but just so slowly practicing forms that it's like almost watching like a statue or something do them.
All right. Well, Will go find him for something inconsequential because I'd like to see that. But I think Will is also, unless Carla and Medea ask her to leave, just in the lounge reading. Like, I don't know where. Like, Will doesn't have a reason to go
I mean, if Will
separately
asks,
to the room.
like, yeah, no, if like Will says to them, Medea will like politely ask, like, do you want to take a hand at reading the book? Both of us have been looking at it, but we figure it would be useful to have a better understanding of the arcane things in the language of what we're fighting.
Yeah, Will look at it, but Will is not overly like fussed with you and Carla doing your own thing and Will doing her own thing. But like, I assume the lounge is big enough that is the most comfortable place
yeah.
to like.
You could
invade.
easily. It's like being in like a large cafe or something like that. Like there's tons of seating space and nooks and crannies.
Yeah, I think Will probably
is,
sits
as,
separately with a chair.
As someone said in the
Um,
Discord, perhaps the perfect place to host a medium-sized party.
But yeah, I will cast my stones while I'm hanging around to see if Will can actually do it and understand the way that it works.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, tried to do a thing. I don't know if this will work, and I didn't know how to GM roll it to test it beforehand. But we'll see if this works. No, it doesn't work.
Bad.
So Will picks up pulls out of her coat like a very nice brand new felt bag probably, and like opens it up and pulls out these relatively not shiny stones but pretty stones, and moves from the chair to the floor and then just tosses them into the air and lets them fall to the ground. I worked it out that if I did D8 rolls, then I could just like decide from that.
Yeah.
Like how it all worked. Because there's no like actual stuff to it.
Well, we'll think about a way to do it eventually.
Yeah, I will work it out. I was just like, I gotta work out a way to do it now that isn't actually trying to convene with a god.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think that means that like, so the way that it works is she throws them up and they like scatter across the ground. Pretty far spread in this case. And the rune for health is one of the furthest, and the rule that is the one that is just like nebulous and can change everything is the other one. And she looks at it and she's just like, I don't know what that means. That could be literally anything. Maybe someone's going to die, maybe I'm gonna die. And she like picks them all up again and looks at them in her hands and it's like, I don't understand how these work at all. And like puts them back into the bag and just holds the one for wisdom while she reads.
Look over at you. It's like, what are you doing over there?
It's a worship of Vera thing that they used to do on my ship, and you throw the things and it shows you the thing that you should pray for, but it told me that I should pray for health and then something. This one, and she like shifts into the bag looking for it and just pulls out one that is like, it's like a little icon of the wind. It's like, this could mean anything. It's supposed to change the other things, but I'm not sure I quite understand how to do it. And she looks as if offended at the wild wind really. Just puts it back in the badge.
Well, guess we'll be on the lookout for nebulous things.
If somebody's hurt or healed or feels better or feels worse in any fashion, that's what that just said would happen. So I would say perfectly accurate prediction of something that will happen in the future. Also, it doesn't necessarily happen immediately, it just will happen at some point. So at
Mm.
some point, someone will feel worse or better about something.
Well, hope that the others get back okay. Probably around this time is when the others get back. The three of you, are greeted to a fatigued-looking Melfindian, kind of like taking one delicate step while finishing a sword stroke at this dummy. He seems to notice you, but not say anything. Alveron, you can make me a history check, actually. Or do you have acrobatics? No. I would allow you to make an athletics check with intelligence. You're muted.
Sorry. My
okay.
attempts to be polite have caused trouble again. You said you would allow acrobatics with intelligence?
Or athletics with intelligence. Either one.
Okay.
As opposed to a history
Um,
check, which I know that you do not.
Not trained, no. All right, so if I did athletics with intelligence, then it would be
+3,
Yeah.
as opposed to +0.
Well, sorry, you're saying
So, if you make an acrobatics check, it's going to be +0 because your int is +0. If you make the athletics check, you'll still be proficient in it, so it'll be +3, as opposed to a history check, which you have +0.
Gotcha. Okay, so then it'll be this -1
Yep.
because athletics I have proficiency, so just whatever this is -1 final roll.
Right. Okay.
So 12.
Yeah, it's very delicate sword forms, and you can kind of see that, like, this is a very accomplished swordsman. You could not like maintain the forms while moving that slowly in the manner that he's doing. Like, this is probably backbreaking. Kind of to do
Elcarin
all
Tai
these.
Chi.
Yeah, to do it as slowly as he's doing it would be like incredibly straining to you, but you're not familiar enough to know like what the sword form is or what the significance of it is.
Gotcha. Enough to appreciate the artistry
Mhm.
of what they're
Yeah.
doing, but not know the soul of what it is they're doing.
Yeah, you've never done training like this. The three of you, I think, move past them to go into the lounge where you see the other three kind of having a bit of conversation, doing their own readings.
Will waves.
Yeah, Padilla also waves, just like happily going back to the conversation. They're in their zone.
Yeah, Sulveran is gonna look over at Alveron and then kind of gesture to the others. He says, "Well, if you want to try to interrupt their reading, and he is going to go collect his book of herbs and while his mind is fresh, try to compare what he knows to what he saw. And he'll probably like gesture, kind of casually inviting Uba since they were looking at these things together, but not with much pressure or expectation because he has already seen that Uba does not seem particularly interested in books.
I think that Uba's gonna look between Will, Alveron, and Sulveran, and Uba definitely wants to talk to Will ASAP, but is not gonna do so while Alveron's in the room. So they're gonna go over to Sulveran and attempt to pay attention. Probably not succeed very much, but at least try.
I think Alveron is I have a lot to think about, especially with running into that character. Alveron might be grabbing a drink and retiring to their chamber that's been set aside, whether it be communal or individual. They're going to be sitting up probably till late thinking about what this means for their future and whether they can ever sail again. That's probably what they're doing for the rest of the night unless someone interrupts them.
Right?
Don't think will interrupt Alveron, although maybe she would. Yeah, I think now that everybody's back and Will's like, oh good, I don't have to worry about them not making it back. Will kind of finish the chapter of the book that she's reading on Elcarin and head to sleep, or to at least to her room, to not be like to be a little wind down a little bit. We'll say to Andormedia, well, good luck with the demons and the like. Don't summon anything that's going to tear the tower apart. These things do rip the ceilings off mountains, remember.
We will make sure to only summon something small and manageable, like a cat.
I should have said this before Alveron left, but we should meet here in the morning and figure out what we want to do next. I think I'm going to probably spend most of my time in the tower while you adventure, but I'm happy to help you plan.
Good. I'll
Makes
stop in
sense.
on Alveron and suggest such a thing.
No.
All right. I will interrupt Alveron. It's also not that long after. It's like 20 minutes after.
Yeah.
Will
At that
just
point,
knocks-
Alveron is not gotten into jammies and climbed into bed, but is instead staring at the tankard held in both hands, hasn't touched it yet, leaned over in the dark, sitting in a chair, just staring at it, thinking. But as soon as you walk in, it's just, oh, yes, Will.
Do we
Yes,
have
what can I
private
do?
rooms, or
Yeah, you have private rooms. Big enough
Right.
place.
then will knock? But otherwise, we'll say, oh, Kala suggested that we all come together and organize tomorrow first thing what we'd like to do. I'm going to roll insight for how much of that will pieces together as not just being tired from the road. But she is rarely trying to show up people. You look not great. You said before that you needed a ship if you needed to deal with the black sails.
That's more of a pipe dream than anything else. The thought of yes, I love the thought of going up against the captain, but there's no way we can afford a ship that can fight, much less the crew to man it, much less. I mean, unless we wanted to just sneak aboard and plant fire bombs throughout her hull, but that's not sporting. That's not. I'm rambling.
Will smiles and says, that's what I like about you, Alveron. You think about what's sporting and not what's the most effective method of murder.
Well, I appreciate your perspective on it as well.
She sighs for a second and says, well, the dancing deer is certainly not capable of going toe-to-toe with the black skies, but if you do need a ship, I am theoretically the captain of the dancing deer. So, and she bows and gestures and says, Captain Willow Aria Ballas at your service. And kind of awkwardly is I don't like that I just exposed that I'm theoretically a captain, because people think about it poorly. But now she's awkward and she will start to leave.
If you're awkward, then there's a very awkward immediate stand up because the captain just bowed in front of Alveron, but also
Don't do that.
but understanding the awkwardness of what just happened, very much there's an ironic pause. It's just a bow and then first sword at your service, Captain. And
Will
thank
Will smiled and said, anyway, the ship's also in rams, so it's not that useful right now. But it can get here at some point. And she like shuffles out and says, I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll work out where to go from there. And she walks to her room and like does that forehead thing against the door where she's like, why do I let myself do these things? And she'll go tell
After-
Uber and Sulveran that she's
after Will leaves, there's kind of that, well, that was awkward moment. But at the end, I guess this is the TV moment, but Alveron sits back down and pulls a sheaf of paper out of his pocket and starts writing. And he's writing out a plan, and he doesn't know what the plan is fully yet, but
Step 1.
Steal a
Step
boat.
one. Step 1, steal a boat. Step 2, acquire captain. Step 3, question mark. Step 4, profit and vengeance.
All right.
Step 5. Moral
Crosses
to-
off step 2.
But yeah, I guess I'll actually knock on. I'll go find Uber and Sulveran wherever they are. 'Cause I'll probably talk to them.
Uber, are we still in the lounge?
I think so. Uba's trying like really hard to focus on what Sulveran's teaching them, even though they're both distracted by what happened outside and also because they're bad at books.
Yeah,
If,
Sulveran probably gets maybe gets that this time. I don't know. Should I roll insight to see if he even notices this time? Let's
Sure.
see. Let's let's see what he notices about Uba's interest.
You rolled to me, I think.
Oh,
Was
can I
it
switch
23?
that? All right. Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, he probably notices that, and
Oh, that's a neat feature. I didn't realize you could do that.
yeah, I was looking at earlier because somebody, yeah, and then you can turn it back private again. So yeah, he probably notices this time instead of just youth preachering Uba to death with herbal books, and is going to is something bothering you?
Uba kind of sighs and says, I apologize. I am trying to learn what you're teaching me, but I keep replaying what happened in the gardens in my head.
If I had a coin for every time a young warrior ignored me when I was imparting some knowledge, I could have bought Alveron that boat.
Uba kind of chuckles at that, but says, I am a bit concerned as to how Alveron's past will affect our rescue mission of sorts. And I'm concerned Uba's definitely still way more paranoid about danger and death in general after getting their butt kicked fighting the demon. And they say, I'm concerned that it may be putting the party at risk.
Is Will walking in around this time?
Yes, I will say yes. I will decide that as the DM.
Great. I wanted to roll in when Sulveran was saying that he was a bad teacher.
I mean, you could roll in earlier. Feel free.
No,
I don't.
that's all right. I feel like Will just being like, well, be better at teaching is not a useful moment. Yeah, I think Will just kind of wanders over at that point and like hears more of the conversation than Will lets on. It's just like, so what are you two talking about?
Sulveran will actually just look over at Uba, curious as to how they're going to describe their concern, since it was so obvious back in the gardens.
Uba will kind of take a second to gather themselves and say, we are trying to attempt a very dangerous mission, possibly fighting demons, maybe shadow dragons, I'm not sure. But I'm concerned that Alveron's past may be catching up with him and it may be causing issues for all of us, and Uba will take some time to explain what happened with Stenna and Alveron, but is surprisingly accurate and not adding any embellishments this time.
So Uba wasn't like Stenna wasn't awed by Uba's scales in this story.
No, no.
I think Will kind of thinks about it for a while and says, "Well, there's two things I suppose I think about this. Firstly, if we can't deal with the mundane pirates of the blackened sky, we're not going to be able to deal with the demons and the shadow dragons. So think of it as a training stepping stone to those fights. But also, I traveled once with a friend who killed some bandits, and we left behind a really angry bandit captain. I would say that's as much a threat to our future as Alveron's things."
I'm not sure if Uba has the capability to blush, but if they do, they are currently blushing and kind of stammer for a moment and say, well, I think you do make a fair point. I think that we are most likely more than capable of fighting these pirates as long as we see them coming and aren't outnumbered.
If you really want to be scared of something, you'd do better to be scared of the demon Sulveran's looking for.
Uba hadn't really considered this and is now looking at Sulveran.
Sulveran is going to shrug slightly, and he's going to say, at least Alveron did try to, and he's going to add a little bit more and explain the bit about how Alveron was, it seems as though he thinks he can get into trouble without us, which seems absurd at this point. But I do assure you that if you go up into those mountains, whatever that thing is, I'm sure it's still out there.
I think Will thinks for a moment and says, "Well, also remember, Alveron fought with us that one time in the bar, and then not really again since then. I know that you are all capable of looking after yourself." Well, Will looks at Uba and then at Sulveran, considering both of them to be inadequately equipped to look after themselves in some regards. And then says, "Look, the point of the crew is that you all look after each other, and you do it not for the ship, but because of the kinship you feel to each other."
Uba is going to kind of sigh heavily because they recognize that Will is right, but they don't want to admit it.
Sulveran is just going to shake his head very slightly. Either Alveron knew that we were watching him, or he said something very similar of his own volition earlier. It is as you are both of two minds, or one mind.
Will nods and says, "Oh, also, I kind of told Alveron that I'm the captain of my ship, and I suppose it is relevant that everyone knows, but I don't want to talk about it." And she stands up and goes to leave. Unless the cat's around, in which case she'll get distracted by the cat.
Uba's jaw kind of dropped, learning that Will is a captain, but they're kind of having information overload right now and they can't actually say anything.
The double shot is wearing off as well.
Yeah, they're just like, what is happening?
So, shouldn't you be the one bestowing nicknames?
Will nods and says, "On my second ship, you had to actually earn it." And very rarely does Will flex the authoritative nature of being a captain, but in that moment she's standing you didn't earn your nicknames yet. Like, you haven't done enough. Medea maybe, but Medea's not really there to get a nickname.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that, Sulveran he's kind of he kind of sets his shoulders back and he like relaxes into his chair, looking pretty settled at that. Almost calmer than he's looked in quite a while. I look forward to it.
So do I. And she will head off. And I'll do a sending to my ship for more information since it's been a few days.
I think
But
at this
I'll do that off screen.
I think at this point Uba is just like really needs to take some time and think about everything that happens, and they'll stand up and look at Sulveran and say, "It seems that perhaps our main agenda at the moment is to hunt some pirates," and then just walk out. A slightly veiled threat, but not really.
Yeah, so
Um,
when Sulveran goes to bed, he will go over and like shake Medea's shoulder to try to pull them out of their stupor.
Medea will like take a second and then like almost jump, and then they turn around. They're like, "Yes."
Do you plan to rest tonight?
At some point, I was going to talk to Will before I went to rest, but that's about it. Why?
She did just head up to her room.
Oh,
You should address her as Captain the next time you see her.
oh. I won't do that unless we're on a ship, and it's her ship. No offense.
Sulveran
There's-
just shakes his head. He says, "It was in jest. I'm not very good at jokes." And then he is going to head up to his room, or down, or wherever his rooms are.
Medea's just like, oh, Will was a cat? We're not on a ship. At some point as well, when Will goes to the room, but after the sending, could I knock on Will's door?
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if you want to do that before or after the sending, Will does.
Uh,
I'm gonna do the sending to Andrew separately. Like, that's
Yeah.
not important.
Okay,
that's
yeah.
how I assumed.
Yeah, like a quiet, like, knock on the door.
Yeah, I mean, Will doesn't sleep very heavily, so Will like come to the door. It'll probably take a few moments because I think that she was probably close to sleep. Medea,
The
hello.
cat attempts to sneak in, but you clearly see it move past Medea's feet to enter into Will's room.
I will let it sneak in. That's fine. Although I
sit on the
consider
bed.
familiar.
What sneaks in?
The cat, the Persian. Well,
Oh,
it's
okay.
not
Yeah,
a
that's
Persian
fine.
because Persia doesn't exist in this world, but it looks like a Persian.
Yeah, Will doesn't care.
Medea's going to
Medea.
say... sorry, you're on.
No, she just says your name, like acknowledging that she's awake enough to realize what's happening.
Will, I noticed you were attempting to pick up Elcarin from what I saw at the dinner table.
Yes, it's going all right. I don't love reading to learn, but she kind of gestures to the book, which is like on the closest, like the bedside table.
I'm currently picking up something else, but primarily the text and reading of it. Between that and other stuff, it might be difficult, but perhaps it would be useful to have somebody else learn it with you to have a conversation partner, at least in the language.
Yeah, Will nods and says, "Oh, sure. Kala and Melfindian both speak it, but I think I'm potentially ahead enough that I could try and teach you, and that would help me learn better."
Yes, or something like that arrangement might work. It'd help both
Sure.
of us.
Do you want a lesson now?
Well, it depends. I would be fine with it, but I assume you're about to sleep.
No, I kind of can sleep really on will. She laughs at her own joke. When I like. That's the nature of spending a lot of my life on a ship, I suppose. And she like gestures for you to come in. She's wearing like essentially just a normal outfit still. That's what she
Yeah.
sleeps in anyway.
Video like takes a little bow, because I think for them it's like sort of like a customary respect thing when entering someone's room. Thank you.
Well,
I
take a
have
seat,
not
I guess.
I have not been taught things in quite a long time.
Oh, that's all right. Everyone learns things differently. There's different ways. Some people do it like I do, which is just someone's talking about it and I'm listening and thinking about it enough, I will start to pick it up. Some people read, and she like probably gestures to Medea as her instinct is that Medea likes to read to learn.
Mm-hmm.
She picks up the book and hands it across, and will, I think, from the day of trying to learn Elcarin and being told what she was bad at and stuff, basically just use like teaching to direct Medea's like focus towards the stuff that is easier to make mistakes with than Will realized than Will thought 10 hours ago.
If Will makes an insight check, they can probably pick up that Medea was like, this was their intention. Like, yeah, Will seems to learn by teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Will probably just, I mean, I'm not doing insight check because Will's not super insightful. Yeah, Will's like,
Yeah.
all right, this works. Like,
Yeah.
we understand each other.
Yeah. Medea will say, strangely enough, I actually sort of have a distaste for books. It's not that I don't like learning, it's that I'm bad at it, but I am somebody who enjoys interpersonal communication when it comes to learning.
In that case, Will snatches the book back off you and like puts it on the thing and sits on a chair, and will just like basically bludgeon you with forced conversation in Elcarin and like make you notice the mistakes that she's making more than like your own mistakes. Like she'll teach you a word and then use a sentence where you, like she is intentionally getting it wrong and you're the one that notices.
Medea will like happily pick up a notepad and reconstruct the sentences written down and then like read it out loud and then try and correct it as best they can.
Sure. Andrew, would
Yeah.
you like me to roll teaching?
Yes.
Proficiency I have.
You may.
What's
Yeah.
the stat for teaching?
Like the intelligence in this case, but leave it up to you. There you go.
Oh,
Crit.
Right.
that goes amazingly,
Will-
apparently.
Will's real good at being a leader, yo. As soon as she
Yeah.
reveals she's a captain, she's like, yeah, I'm actually very good at being authoritative.
It fits
I'm
too.
actually
'cause
3
this is,
levels
like,
higher than I was telling you all. Just been pretending.
Will gets to teach in their preferred way, and Medea gets to learn in their preferred way.
Yeah, and they both get better at it.
Yeah.
Good. We'll speak Elcarin by the end of 3 months.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, will spend like an hour and a half, but that's like the maximum extent of her endurance to be able to stay awake that long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eventually, Medea retires to their own room.
Mhm.
And the cat doesn't leave. The cat nestles up on the bed and it's just like, "Meow, meow."
Will looks at the cat when she's finally ready to sleep and says, I don't really have the magic power yet to understand you, but yet I think I understand you perfectly. And will essentially just sleep around the cat and be like, fine, I'm not going to move you because I've dealt with cats before. I don't have the energy, and it's fine.
Nuzzle, nuzzle,
All the
nuzzle,
while
nuzzle.
knowing deep down that this cat is also like essentially a vessel for the consciousness of an old Elcarin man.
It's an undistinct entity. It's just serving them. Eventually, Kala comes and opens the door to your room, Will. looks over at you and says,
10 minutes after Will had gotten to sleep,
Yeah.
and Will's like awake from the door opening.
Well,
only
Oh.
one bed. My turn on the floor.
I think Will says, I'm literally already sharing with a cat. It's fine. You can share this as well.
Sure. She'll go and lay on the. It's a big bed. It's like at least a queen size, maybe a little bit bigger. She'll go and lay on the opposite side, setting down her things. Not really changing, as the clothes that Melfindian gave you all are pretty close to pajamas already.
So
Couldn't really get my own room. Felt a bit lonely.
my master plan of protecting you by being close has made you forced to be spending all your time with me. Will is drowsy enough to be like joking, but it's not really that obvious. Says, also, I told everyone else that I'm a captain, so
Wow.
now you know as well. I did it. I told everyone. Except maybe Medea. Will thinks about it and says, I'll tell them tomorrow. It's fine.
Big day.
Really just means you haven't been paying me enough.
I haven't been paying you at all.
Oh, that's true. Will is falling asleep to this conversation.
Eventually you fall asleep, and Kala stays awake, I think, a little bit longer, just kind of thinking, but eventually will fall asleep themselves. All of you awake the next day at around the same time, to like gently, it's not like an alarm bell or anything, but eventually like wind picks up in all of your rooms, and you can start to hear a breeze, and then almost like the sounds from outside are slowly being turned up on a knob until eventually you can hear like people talking, ocean waves, sounds that you really shouldn't be able to hear in this exact physical location, but are slowly being turned up until you're slowly coming to consciousness, along with all of the people of the day. It's this sort of magical alarm. You all get up and do your various morning routines, eventually making your way into the lounge area where Melfindian is kind of sitting, like kind of like stroking their facial hair. Just kind of reading a book, waiting for all of you. I think the last person to enter, I feel, is Uba. Uba or Medea, one of those two.
Yeah. Probably Medea, because they spend a ton of
Medea
time
has a
on their
long
hair.
bathroom routine.
Yeah.
So Medea enters in last while everybody's kind of sitting down, eating and drinking. Well, looks like everybody's here now. So, seems that we've got some new information as of last night. What is the plan of action?
Well, what did we learn last night?
Yeah, did Uber and Sulveran tell Will about like the suggestion that Alveron's friend made of like a place to go?
I'll say yeah. I think Uba basically recounted the conversation very clearly, minus the fact that Alveron was talking about party loyalty. They conveniently forgot to mention that part.
Yeah, it didn't suit Uber's purpose to mention that part, but Sulveran did fill that bit in, right?
Yeah. Sulveran
think-
also filled in his concern about, following this person that Alveron clearly said was old pirate buddy.
I think Will says, well, if and looks at Alveron, if what Uber and Sulveran mentioned is correct. We have some more of a lead on how to deal with your immediate bounty issue in Tal'Anfagon.
Can someone fill me in on what did happen?
Sulveran is going to interject with Alveron believes it is not our issue, and then explain just briefly that portion of it before he like ducks his head to Alveron in a sort of deferential manner of, you can explain the most of it, but I'm certainly not going to let you martyr yourself over this sort of thing.
Over
I just want to clarify. What do you mean it's not your issue?
You were the one who stated that my brain is too. Sulveran remembers, but I don't remember. Basically, I had the impression that Alveron had said something like, I wouldn't have you come to any harm following this lead up. Like
right.
That
I
it was.
just want to clarify the meaning of that was not, well, this is entirely my business and it doesn't affect you. The meaning was more, I will try my hardest. This is my responsibility and I don't want it borne by you.
Yes, and that is that is exactly how Sulveran took it.
Okay.
But he is
I just
making
wanted
it
to
clear
make
to
sure.
the party that he's not going to let. He's basically making it clear to Alveron that he's not going to let him conceal anything that might put Alveron at greater risk in interest of defending the party somehow.
Okay, gotcha. I just wanted to make sure it didn't come across as like I'm hiding it from the party so that it surprises you later. More
Nope.
like, this is my responsibility. This is my bullshit. I don't want to inflict it on you any more than it has to be.
Yeah, it came across as martyrdom, and so Sulveran is like, no.
I see your attempt at protecting the group, and I say, fuck you, sir. Fuck you.
I will walk right into that danger. Thank you very much.
Anything less is dishonorable.
Did you just
The
try to
tribe's
protect
problems
me?
are the tribe's
Really?
problems.
Oh Lord. So I explain more the side of this person is an old ally who is more an ally of the old captain of mine, who is more agreeable and more understanding than the old captain who I had to leave. They've given a potential out for me through this contact, who can apparently be paid through favors or through gold. But this is me attempting to clear my debt, and it doesn't need to fall on the rest of you, even though I see Sulveran just rubbing their hands together right here and being like, plot.
Look, I'm happy to help. But how would it clear up this? If you genuinely were a pirate, I don't see how they could do something like that.
Well, either my old captain is trying to make a name for themselves, or they feel so personally besmirched by my whole leaving that they decided to exact personal vengeance. Either way, it's been a problem lately.
Do you know if the bounty was issued by perhaps the people hunting, by perhaps your old captain, or perhaps directly from a kingdom after they leaked that you were a pirate or some such? You were around in the area.
I pause for a second with that because I don't know. I imagine this is something that they would want to handle internally. So I don't think they would have been like, hey, privateers, this person was a known pirate, go get him. This is much more, especially with the one pirate who I've interacted with. saying that the captain wants me back.
Yeah, I would
Privateers
just
would return me to the ship.
I think Will would just like know this that Orthoran probably wouldn't, I guess in this case, like stoop himself low enough to put up like, you know, to tell everybody that you're a pirate. You know, he wants you brought to him, not to some like
Right.
state prison. Like that wouldn't
This
make
is
sense to you.
personal.
That would be super out of character.
Yeah. This is some personal beef.
Does it make a huge amount of sense if your previous encounter wanted to take you back and then they give you over to the kingdoms?
No.
Also, why would you contract a drug dealer if you were on the up and up as part of a kingdom? Anyway,
Yeah.
whether or not it's our place to be involved in, were something to happen to you, it would significantly weaken our eventual rescue of Toralus. Also, just in general, I do feel like it might not be a bad experience for us to maybe deal with some of your issues immediately, so we don't have to wander around Tal'Anfagon watching ourselves more than we already have a propensity to do.
Andrew, I have a question.
Yes.
Would local governments, would I know this? Like, I've been to Tal'Anfagon before, right?
Mhm.
Would I know if local governments issue out bounties for taking down pirate ships?
Oh yeah, sometimes, yeah, for sure.
Okay, yeah.
You know, not. I mean, they have their own navies which try to hunt down pirates. But if you were to
Yeah.
bring in pirates, like yeah, they will pay off entries for that.
Okay, yeah. Medea will say, well, in the any case, we're eventually going to have to deal with them in the long run. And if we're looking for money and resources, any government would be happy to have us eventually bring in pirates. Some kind.
I think whatever happens eventually with the Blackened Skies will be under the direction of Alveron.
Yes.
Right now, we can push off the need for worrying that at any time Alveron could be attacked by bounty hunters by dealing with your contact in the Orchids. Or we could go to the Dragon Tooth Inn, become adventurers for a little while, and not be in Tal'Anfagon to have the threat eventuate. If that is your preference, Alveron. Also, we could meet a kobold, which Uma seemed quite taken with. I do remember Meeple coming from Tal'Anfagon, and his son potentially still lives here. Will's thinking back to like the stories of Meeple and go, although I don't think they're on good terms, so maybe leading with we're friends of Meeple if we do meet another kobold that looks like Meeple, and Will kind of gets caught up in like the idea of meeting a kobold and how you could tell if they look like Meeple. Like what are the genetics of kobolds? How does that work?
Oh Lord.
Yeah, no.
Either way, I think in this case, Alveron, it hinges on whether or not you want to deal with. Is it Lady Steno?
Yeah.
What Lady Stena's information?
If you guys want, just a DM level, since we are getting towards the end of the session, we could break here and then pick up, having you guys kind of discuss this off screen a little bit, if you want.
Yeah.
That way you have a little bit more time to consider your options.
I like
Yeah,
that. I like the thought of us kind of talking a little more.
Because it is about that time. So
yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
We will then break with you guys kind of at the table of Melfindians, conversing, considering your plans, what you're going to do, and we'll pick up there at the top of the next session with hopefully you guys figuring out like a plan. or maybe a couple plans. We'll see. Thanks everybody for coming on and watching. I really liked this session. It was very balanced. We kind of got around on the lots of different like individual character moments, which was nice. We'll be back next week, as always, same time, same place, and hope to see you then.